He might not be from Clifton, but he's heads above the rest. His knowledge can't be questioned. You can put it to the test. So if you want to hear the truth and have nowhere else to go, I'll give you the solution. Just tune into his show and just kneel before Zod. Kneel before Zod. Kneel before Zod. Kneel before Zod.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Phantom Zone. It is the most earth-breaking, ground-shaking, but never media show money-taking. The man, the myth, the legend, the most electrifying and quite angry YouTuber villain in all of YouTube today, Mr. Zod. And I'm angry because I've spent hours going down a very deep and dark foxhole with this to bring you guys, hopefully, a very comprehensive, deep talk. And I have a friend who I'm so excited to have on. Les, how are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. As soon as you said, as soon as you asked and you're like, this is the topic, I was like, yes, we need to talk about this. So thank you so much. And how are you? You having a good day?
I'm good. I was doing this and it was, so folks, I have watched tons of things in my life. I've watched stuff on the Holocaust, World War II, being in the service and doing military stuff. I watched a lot of stuff, but nothing was tougher than diving into this subject. I had a really tough time with this one in particular because of the details. I kind of watched a no holds barred documentary, the full thing in one day, which probably I should have broke that up. And it was rough to hear from the perspective of exactly how terrible this group is that we're talking about today. And I guess as a responsible YouTuber I do want to say like a triggering warning. I think that's what they call it. Because there is some stuff I will dive into today that is heavy. And we were talking about this earlier. I think there is some stuff I'm just not going to talk about on here. It is just, it's too much, I think, and I think YouTube would have a problem with that. So I'm not going to talk about all of the details, but I will recommend go on Amazon Prime and check Seduced by the Light if you really want to get some insight into a view from the survivors of this event and why I'm talking about it today. So before we get going, I'm going to do the boring stuff here and give you guys the intro. Because I look, I took notes. This is the first, well, this is a unicorn drawing that my girl inspired me. But I took notes about the stuff that was going on. There was so much in this. And Les, you told me before we got in here, you were like, I took notes too. I was like, we both probably won't hit everything that this entails.
Yeah, because I was watching, because as I said, I did watch the documentaries, and then when I went back and watched a few other things, I noticed a few other things that I was like, oh, that's how he did it. And this is why and how the girls got to where they ended up, because it's easy to victim blame in this situation. It really is.
Yes, and I know a lot of people blamed Allison Mack because she was the big figurehead. Yeah. But it's also important to realize too, you don't condone the people's actions, because honestly, what happened should happen. She should face some time. But she was also a victim too. Yeah. She was probably one of the worst victims when we lay out here today what he did and how he pulled it off. This guy, and there is a woman who is responsible. I'll bring up her name because I got it written down. I believe it was
the hypnotist.
Nancy Salzman.
That's her.
That woman is specifically to blame, but there's celebrities and stuff in here where they use quite literally techniques that psychiatrists use. to help people. They use them to influence people and to breaking people. They use techniques the military used to condition them. This is a very deep, long-standing thing. So you're probably thinking, Zod, why are you talking about this? Well, I've wanted to have this discussion for a long time, and I thought about how I cover stuff in entertainment, and I thought about Amber Heard, and I wanted to expose that there are groups that, to me, are worse than just individual abusers. Not saying that abusers aren't wrong. What I'm saying is there are groups who create abusers, and they're funded, and they're creating more victims and abusers at an alarming rate, because these people who are victims later become abusers, and they were created by a person who was demented. And you've got these people, whether it's Scientology, whether it's this Nxivm group, whether it's people, the shady people in the psychic community. There are tons of people to talk about in these different groups that are creating and fostering and breeding victims and abusers, and by the dozens. You're talking 20, 30 people or more that we know of that are out there because of this one group. And this is the smallest. This is the smallest group. That's what amazed me.
Yeah.
This is not even on the level of Scientology. We're talking about, this group was like number 2 to them when I looked it up. That's crazy. So that's my long-winded introduction, but did you have anything to add to that before we start diving into this?
No. Yeah, it is amazing how he got away with it for so long. And I would love to know how they start. Like, how did he start this thing? And because he obviously knows what people want. Obviously, he's very, very good at giving people what they want and what they need. But to have the plan, think about it, have the plan, say, I'm going to create this group of people who are going to be my slaves, essentially. How do you go from idea to inception? And at what point do you not think, is this a good idea or not?
I mean, there's a lot of moral and ethical things, and I'm going to get into some certain statements, but first I want to just read down the chat and say hi to everyone, because that was a long introduction, and I know I jumped into it right away. It was because this subject had my head spinning. This is the first time in a long time I've had to stop something, take a walk, reevaluate my stance on life and human beings. I say that a lot, that there's things that make me question humanity. This was one of those moments where I'm like, are we even worth it? Like, when I was looking through this, I'm like, is this even worth it? Because there was a lot of things to it. But Jenny, how are you, Jenny? We got Crummel. Good to see you here. Let me see. Christine, how are you? Christine, Megan, good to see you. Edward, how are you? The cybernetic husky, who's a crewmate on my late night talks, is here.
I love that name.
Yeah, and he says he's going to be lurking. No surprise. Sherry, how are you? Planet Q's queen, how are you doing? Good to see you. Anne, how are you? And Rebecca, what's up? Oh, and Sean B, Susan Rodenhaver, I'm sorry. Sometimes I jump ahead of the chat, because then it just, like, you know what StreamYards does that thing?
Yeah, it jumps.
It jumps, and then you're like, oh, wait, I just, like, skipped 10 people.
You're like, I knew they were there. Where'd they go?
Like, we have South Florida Thrifter. How are you doing? Welcome. Now, this is going to be just a disclaimer again. This is going to be a hard topic to talk about. But I think that it's important to talk about this, because I always feel like with the elitist levels is the worst. Like, yeah, it's bad to have people you could run into where you could be a victim. That's a bad feeling, or if it's happened to you,
Mhm.
that's terrible, that fear. But what's worse is knowing that these people who are churning out, and I'm going to get to the part of them creating abusers, because there's a part of this program I'm going to talk about that's very that was programming men as well. So you had two fronts where this guy was manipulating people. He was manipulating the men and he was manipulating the women, and he was essentially creating abusers out of the men and creating victims out of the women. It
Mhm.
is fucking insane. It would go down for me as one of those mega maniacal people, like the classic villains, because
Mhm.
it really was genius in how twisted it was, the way he was implying it, and scary because
Mhm.
these started as empowerment seminars. Now, you're from this end of the world, and I
Mhm.
never knew this was a thing, but could you tell everyone what one of these seminars is like when they talk about um, these career empowerment things?
Well, essentially, if you go, it depends on which one you go to. It really does, because I feel
This is
I
why I brought you on. I know
yeah,
nothing. I feel empowered when I wake up in the morning. So,
as you should, as you should. So the thing is like depending on which one you go to, you will go and essentially what they're going to do is they're going to bring up ideas of where you could do improvements in your life and tell you that you can make those improvements on your life. And kind of they're a little triggering for some people because there's going to be some things coming up where you're like, well, fuck, that's me and I don't like it. I don't like it. You just hit the nail on the head and I don't like it. But you're supposed to leave those feeling good. You are not supposed to be leaving those with a sense of um I need to come back because I'm missing something. I need to come back because I felt more loved in that room than I have anywhere else in the world.
oh
Ye
God,
Uh-oh, uh-oh. What
my lamp
happened?
just decided. Okay. Oh,
Oh,
jeez. I sorry. I had to go. I'm gonna go dark to get in the mood. No, it's my lighting source just messed up. God, the light bulb's crooked. I'm sorry.
it's
Continue.
okay, it's okay.
And I do
Light
want to
down.
have, sorry, folks, I do want to have some levity because we're going to get into some very dark stuff in a second. So you're supposed to leave feeling good,
Yeah,
and you're not supposed
and
to leave wanting more. Well, you
well,
could
you
want more, but not needing it.
right. You do want more because you leave feeling good. And the and they're how do I put this? Because when we watch motivational videos and we go to motivational seminars, when we leave, we feel really good. And then what happens is we're not in that environment anymore. We go back to our old environment and we feel that we're missing something. And then we keep reminding ourselves, well, I felt really, really good at that seminar. So I'm going to go back for more. And I think this is the thing that he honed in on. He's like, I'm going to make them feel so good and I'm going to make them feel so loved. And they're just going to keep coming back and coming back and coming back. Like, in all honesty, like, we should be able to go get the information and kind of sift through it ourselves. Like leave, sift through it. And if we feel we need more, then of course we go back and get more. But that individual up on the stage should always be reminding us that our gut feeling is our own. And if something doesn't feel right, don't do it. And you are, you are a sovereign human and you get to do whatever you want. Like really, you get to design your life. He didn't do that. He kind of reverse psychologied it. And that's the thing that really, really pissed me off. I'm like, okay, you just took what the rest of us do and you used it to take away their power. Instead of going to get power and to realize that, wait a minute, like I can do all these things, I am capable. I just need the tools to do it. That's cool. It shouldn't cost you $1 million to get the tools. It shouldn't. And
The
he did everything, like he turned self-improvement on its head and turned it into self-destruction.
And this might be a bit of a strain because I want to get into that too. Because I'm so glad to have you here because I've just had talks with you and I felt better, like just chatting in the back or something like that. And I'm like, wow, I feel like I'm less angry than I normally am. I mean, thank goodness I don't talk to you on Friday nights because I need that anger. But yeah, it is like, so I get this different feeling when I talk to you about how you handle your words, how you talk with people, and you give them enough, but not too much because they got to come to their own. Most psychiatrists who are licensed will tell you have to make your own self-discovery, but their jobs is to guide you in a safe way.
Yeah.
This son of a bitch
did not do that.
I'm the blunt end. I'm the not as
he
nice
is a
as
son of a
you.
bitch.
But this son of a bitch was taking that theory, inserting words to break certain aspects of them and flipping it. And it baffles my mind because the sheer amount of destruction when I get into these names later and how he broke them down. I mean, thank goodness the government really wasn't interested because they could have used this man in interrogations. Like, he manipulated people like I haven't seen in years. Like, really, I thought of Charles Manson and that kind of the way that he did it until to this day. Dude, Charles Manson was an ugly guy. I have no clue how he did it. He was kind of creepy looking too, but he had that gift. Apparently, he could look at you and captivate a room. Some people just have that crazy, insane gift, and they, instead of using it to help people, they use it to destroy people or get them to do what they want to do to benefit them.
Exactly.
And I wanted to take some questions, because people had some really good ones. South Florida Drifter said, I've always been suspect of self-help because I never felt like someone could one size fits all help.
Well, it's not one size fits all. That's the thing. And what resonates for one isn't going to resonate for the other. Like take what resonates and leave what doesn't. Like what worked for me is not going to work for somebody else, but maybe like a fraction of it will.
Yeah, and that's what I like. I like to think of it because I've gone to, like, I've seen a couple of them and my friends have gone. I've done other things. I'm sorry, that's not my space, but I've heard what they were talking about because they played the Tony Robbins and stuff. And I'm like, oh, well, while I'm listening to it, I could take that and that. I don't really need that. He's kind of too excited for me over here. But, and I said, oh, I see the allure. It should be suggestions, tips, maybe things you didn't think of, but it shouldn't be making you feel like shit. So you have to go to the next one to get a feeling of fulfillment. And that's what was going on here. And the other thing I'm going to bring up later is for you guys is, holy shit, this was going on during Me Too. Hashtag Me Too. Where the fuck were you? Because instead of worrying about Harvey Weinstein, not saying he's not a bad guy, but I'd like to think he would have just been hit by a missile or something terrible on its own, or maybe a bolt would have fell on his head or something comical. This guy's trial was right next to Weinstein's. And the press was on it, but the fucking Spanish press covered this more than we did.
Yeah, because he was arrested in Mexico, right? Like he was arrested in Mexico. Yeah, it's very
in Mexico.
Very, very odd that it wasn't a bigger deal than what it was. Because here we are, in the space of let's believe all women, let's, throw that bullshit statement all over the place. And yet here we are blaming the victims of this cult for being in it in the first place. It's like, well, you don't know how they got there. You don't know what was going on for them to get there.
And I'm going to go into detail what was going on. I'm going to leave some details out because I believe that, like I said in the beginning, there's too much. And I don't know. I don't feel right fully explaining everything that went on.
Yeah.
I'll give you the broad strokes, but if you want more of it, definitely check out that Amazon special, because holy hell, I had to watch that in parts. I had to stop it. It was a lot for me, and I've seen a lot of shit. So I could only imagine being in that situation, what it was like. And I mean, just placing my headspace in there, being in that situation, I don't know how the hell I have so many, we talk about these strong, powerful females. Okay. I'm going to list some names of women I think are strong and powerful. And these are the women who survived. These are the women who are now currently trying to get state legislation changed because of this shit, and how these cult-like groups are being funded and getting tax breaks and all sorts of crazy shit. We are funding groups and individuals who are claiming to be self-help, or tomorrow we'll get into religious, right? For tax write-offs. The government is giving them money to hide behind, to do horrible shit to innocent people.
Yeah.
And
As long as
really
you're a
pisses
church,
me off.
you've got it made. As long as you're listed as a church, and in the eyes of the government, you can do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, and it's why I wanted to cover this, because it's one of the most terrible things. The psychological end is what's really going to get me, and I'm going to give some stories and stuff. Sherry says self-help, personal growth course, aka brainwashing. Exactly. That's what they were doing. They were doing
That's what he was doing. Not always.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. Not always, but you just got to be careful that, like, are they telling you that you have every decision? Like, learn to say no and listen to your gut. Even if you're the only person in the room that feels like this isn't right, go with your gut. He went and turned that all on its head, and he took all of that away.
Because I'll
Motherfucker.
be honest with you, whether you're listening to Tony Robbins or someone else, I'm gonna get to the wording this guy used, but then we'll go to like a Tony Robbins, when he talks, puts things in a general sense. He never uses, like, you know what I mean, right? He doesn't use specific words like you are. He uses a very broad word set where it's like, you can do this. Kind of like not trying to generalize it to single you out, but more of
Right.
In a broader sense. People could do this. So it doesn't make you, if you're in the crowd and you have that problem, feel like, oh man, I'm the one he's talking about. He's more generalizing a problem you might have. And this is, in his opinion, how you should combat that issue. And you could take it or you could not.
Yeah.
But
And to be okay, and for that person on, like, who's ever talking, to be okay with you leaving it. Because I think this is where this asshole's problem was, is that if you were about to leave what he just said, oh man. Like if someone comes to me, and asks me a question and they want advice, and I tell them what I think and say, well, it's your life, you do what you want. Like, obviously, this is what I think. And if it feels right, that's fine. And if they don't take my advice and I get pissed off, well, who the hell am I?
And I like lemon pie. My friend Lemon Pie's in here,
Lemon
says,
pie.
Nxivm, I still don't know how I call this based on an acid reflux medicine.
Well, lemon pie, it's funny because I went to Google it and it did bring up Nxivm.
Yeah. I had to put the X in there.
Yeah.
Because they were like, they kept on bringing me to that. And I go, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, I don't do this.
And then Lemon Pie, thank you very much. What our favorite lemon in the chat says, truly strong women are found in this chat.
I agree.
Yeah, we have an amazing chat here. And I know this is going to be hard. So the first thing I want to lay out is, let me get some boring stuff out of the way. So for anyone who might ask, what is Nxivm? Like, what was their niche, or what was their hook? Well, Nxivm was originally started, now get this, in 1998. It was started by Keith Rayner and Nancy Salzman. They were listed as a personal development company offering executive success programs, or ESP, and a range of techniques for self-improvement. Rayner claimed that its emphasis is to have people experience more joy in their lives. Now, there's something I want to highlight as I go through this, is that this, like, I hear the word nowadays misogyny and shit thrown so much around that it kind of loses what it's supposed to be, right? Misogynistic, misogyny, mansplaining, all that stupid shit. It gets thrown around a lot. But I hate to say it. This guy Keith, is the very example. If you looked up misogyny in the fucking dictionary, this is the guy.
Yeah.
He literally founded this course, and I quote, based on the male perspective. Okay. Now, on the surface, there's nothing wrong with this statement, right? He's pitching it as he came from business, and there's a lot of male things in the business world, right? In that time period, very male-oriented corporate structure. So he's selling it like, yeah, you want to see how the men do it, that kind of a thing. So when he first made this statement, I didn't see what the big deal was. I'm like, suspicious, but not. But then when you start getting to the wording, and I'm going to get into some of the curriculum, but when you get into the wording of what he's saying, and as you get into the system and you see the courses he offers, it becomes very clear that it's a very misogynistically driven type of a group. It's very, I don't know how the fuck to really put it. It is the biggest. This is the biggest example of misogyny. That's all I got. This is the biggest example of this is like an abuser's playground. This guy is the textbook example of a male narcissistic misogynist piece of shit, and possibly murderer. I don't know, but I would not doubt it. Everything he does, just short of murder. And in the documentary I watched, there is even somebody who may have committed suicide or just fucking disappeared. They don't know.
That's a problem.
He might have murder underneath his belt, but this guy created this program, and I'm gonna also pull up a chart of the kind of pyramid scheme he had going on with it. But
because it never occurred to me that it was a goddamn MLM, but for humans. Like actual humans.
Think about it. And I'm sorry, before we go any further, for everyone who might know, what's an MLM?
Oh, an MLM is they say that the MLM and the pyramid scheme are very two different things. Essentially, so if I said, hey, I'm selling this pen, you can have this pen at like half price. And if you could sell this pen and make money off selling this pen, you got to bring in all your friends. It just turns into, so we have a product and you get to sell it to your friends, and then your friends get to sell it to their friends, and then you make money off the ones that your friends make. Like, it's just a whole goddamn hot mess. And essentially they're very much illegal. But as long as you're selling a product, and that product is a tangible thing you can hold in your hand, that's the way that a lot of these MLMs are getting away with it. But he was MLMing people.
Fucking women.
Yeah.
He was pyramid scheming women. And I think South Florida Drifter gave me the proper word for it. Melomaniacal, or God damn it. Okay, me and words. Sick son of a bitch. Okay, this sick son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Was pyramid scheming women.
Yep.
Breaking women to make them have their own set of women to break who would eventually have their own set of women.
Yeah.
Right? It's the sickest fucking use of a pyramid scheme I've ever seen. And it sits somewhere between, I'm sure sick people would say genius because he boiled it down to people, and fucking evil. Now, I lean on the evil side, but when you think about it from a business perspective, he took what pimps do and made it try to make it a legal thing, like they were fucking, like you said, pens or paper clips or something.
Yeah.
That's how this guy, the fact nobody fucking broke this down and talked about this boggles my mind. Like, this is a big deal. This is fucking bad. This is really bad.
Yeah.
That not only did he come up with this, but this group started in 98. The pyramid scheme, or DOS, which we'll get into later, was actually conceptualized around 2004. But between 98 and 2004, 2005, when he started picking up scheme with this idea of creating DOS, he was laying the groundwork that whole time. So in these seminars, he was super secretly breaking people and finding people to target and having this idea of where he was going to go. Yes, thank you. Megalomaniac.
There you go.
Here,
I can't say that word. I'm not even going to attempt it. Me and words too, Zod. Me and words too. They don't get along.
But so he was pyramid scheming people.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will say people, but I'm going to say women. He was doing this with women. He was specifically targeting and pyramid scheming women. Yep. Okay, that should be said. Hashtag me too. This is the fucking people you should be looking for, and these people are still fucking operating.
Yeah,
not in the same capacity, but it could be 20 times worse. This man, since 98, when he set up this bullshit thing, you allowed him for years, and we're going to get into that too, but you allowed him for years to operate because he had fucking money, he had celebrities, and he had people in Congress, government, certain government officials, and police in his pocket, and you fucking people allowed this man to operate and to victimize all of these people while he was beta testing.
Yeah.
Because there were people he tried this program on before he made this group.
Yeah, he was testing it for a while. But you know, he's smart, right? Yeah, he's a fucking genius, actually. But he had Richard Branson. He had the Dalai Lama. Well, he didn't have the Dalai Lama, right? But he
paid the Dalai Lama.
He paid, well, the Nxivm sisters paid the Dalai Lama $1 million to go and like meet with him. But he didn't have the Dalai Lama, but he made it, the perception was that the Dalai Lama actually was okay with this dude. So you have, and then Richard Branson, great guy in my own humble opinion. And so, if it's okay for Richard, well, then it's okay for me.
And then later he got Allison Mack, which if you guys didn't live in the time period, a lot of people were Chloe fans, myself included. Okay, I liked Lana, but I just thought Chloe was kind of cuter. Whatever, that isn't the point. Anyways, no, I'm talking about misogynistic guys. I should say it'd be like, Zod, are you going to no? Okay. But let's be real. She was good looking at that time. And, we were all young guys. But anyways, you had my girl's going.
She's like, oh, sorry.
You had these famous, powerful people. Yeah. And this is what I wanted to bring up with this series. This is what this series is about. We have these same assholes who are going to come out and tell us how terrible we are because we don't like a fucking movie. But they fell for a guy who was setting up mass slavery, because that's what it was, enslavement of women. He was treating women like commodity and then getting them to recruit other women and he almost destroyed a bunch of them, and some of them he did.
Yeah.
And why I say I feel bad for Allison Mack, even though I know a lot of people will be like, well, she perpetrated this. You got to understand, this man literally used and employed illegal psychological type techniques.
Yeah.
He did hypnosis. He did things with
NLP.
eye contact.
Yeah. NLP, he did. Neuro-linguistic programming.
Yeah.
When used in the wrong hands, that's very dangerous.
So let's get into that a little bit. I'm, you know, I know I'm scattershot people, but there's a lot of things because I really, this is dangerous, and I really want to highlight most of this stuff. So what is NLP, and how is it typically supposed to use, and is it used in other fields that you know of? Like trying to just give us a rundown of what this is and why it's so dangerous in the wrong hands.
Well, NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. And really, at the end of the day, to narrow it down, really what you're doing is you are body reading and you are manipulating conversations and people. And it's just like, I know how to do it, but I just rather not. I rather not. It is just something that it can be used for so much good. You can get so much out of it if you use it for a good reason. But unfortunately, what happens is that these techniques get handed down, and they get like what do you call them? Pickup artists use them. These are the techniques pickup artists will use.
And that's a whole separate other group that's on the edge of you know, it reminds me a lot of Hitch, because that's essentially what Hitch was when you think about that movie.
Yeah.
Like they played it off like he was giving advice, but really he was a pickup artist. He knew how to manipulate women in that situation, and that's exactly what it is. But this is to the 10th degree, because this you're messing with people's psychiatry. And there's a second point, thank you, Sherry, where she adds they had questionnaires to pinpoint insecurities that could be exploited by the cult.
Yes.
Which is so it's twofold when you get into these situations. And this is why I wanted to talk about this. Should you guys ever find yourself in a situation, I hope one day people could be like, I watched Zod's channel and he told me about all this shit to keep my eyes
like
out.
This sounds awfully familiar.
God, I hope not. And if it does, run. Get the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
Don't look back, okay? But anyways, what this is twofold. And this isn't just exclusive for them too. Some psychics who claim to be psychics that like to make profit will say, and that'll be a different stream. And I'm going to have Keely on for that one, because she's a great example of what you should do versus what gets done in that community. But I've even talked to my mod, Mad Squirrel, and she was talking about it too. There's a lot of shit that goes down there. You know, it's like any community. You have your good people who want to help, and you have these assholes, right?
Who just want to take advantage.
But it's kind of like what these psychic readers do, right? They ask a series of questions, and based on those questions, they have a 50-50 shot to hit something that might be close to what you're feeling. They make very broad statements to draw out broad answers, and then you kind of like answer the question yourself is what the gist of it is. So he was using the questionnaires as a baseline, and then from that baseline, he could say specifically what the person wanted to hear to draw out the answers. Now, folks, imagine how scary this is. This is a man who you're trusting with information you think is being used to help you specifically train in something, right?
Yeah.
But he's using it as a way to figure you out, to make you feel like he knows shit about you that nobody else knows, to pull you in, and then they got you.
And then he'll use it. He weaponizes that information. That's the problem. When you tell someone something, as deep and dark as some of those questionnaires were, and he uses it to say, oh, I'm going to use this later, because he's looking for all those insecurities. I forget who said it, but you nailed it in the chat. They use it to grab all those insecurities, and then they're going to use it at a later date. he's going to love bomb you like nobody else. He is going to, I watched him when he would talk to people, he would look them directly in the eye. And unfortunately, a lot of people can't do that. And it's okay that you can't do that. But that eye contact is very, very intimate. And if you've never had that before, it will make you feel like you are the only person on the planet. Amber Heard does that too. Anyway, like it is hypnotizing. And
let me just I don't want to get too sidetracked, but let's just talk about that. Isn't it kind of funny? Because it does relate, right? This guy, Keith Raniere, used it, and fucking Amber Heard does the same thing. Is it just like a narcissistic asshole seminar somewhere where like these people are just like get together and be like, okay, you know what's big, guys? Eye contact. Because every one of these sick pricks,
they do it.
Implement the same exact tactic. They'll look you in the eyes. They're almost isolating you with their look, right? And they honed in like you're fucking special. Like there could be 20 people there, but they're looking at you. That's the feeling. And it's fucking scary. It's terrifying.
Well, it's an intoxicating feeling, especially if you've never had it before. If you've never experienced that before, man, oh man, you don't know what hit you.
And I like Planet Q's Queen says it reminds me of the scammers that call to get onto your computer and drain your bank accounts. Yeah, that's those douchebags.
Actually, one just called me. I've had this package at the border, and it's containing illegal substances, and it's in my name. And I've been I've been waiting to get arrested for the last month, and they call me 3 times a day to let me know that I'm going to be arrested. I'm like, well, I'm waiting. Come get me.
Like, I don't know if you know, but that's not how the laws work.
This works.
like you're gonna be called by other people, but it's not gonna be someone to warn you unless you're in a fucking cartel movie.
Exactly. Oh my god. Oh my god.
You're a better person than me because I just let it play. I'd fuck with them like really bad. I'd be like, oh my god, really? And I'd be like, are you there with De Niro and Pacino? Who's coming in for me first? Get the fuck out of here. I got a package on the border. I go, is there good drugs in it? Because I can use some for this shit.
Exactly. What's in it? Because I'll come get it. Don't worry about it. I'll come get it. It's fine.
It better be worth this charge. Sherry says mental manipulation.
Yeah,
exactly.
At its finest.
And Jenny Gunn says like any narcissistic does.
Yep. Oh yeah, and the thing is, like, I can't say what the hell is wrong with this guy, but if I were to call him anything, I'd call him narcissistic to its nth degree. Like, yeah, that would be my guess.
South Florida says narcs will go on and on about loyalty, so that an insecure, lonely person will be like, oh yes, I'm that kind of loyal. That's me too. Yes.
Yeah.
That's the scariest part to me. The first part of this is this group was founded as a personal development group, self-improvement under the guise of helping people. By 2003, 3,700 people had taken the ESP class. So 3,700 people. That's a lot. And some of those are famous people.
Yeah.
The participants included Shelley Johnson, Surgeon General Antonio Novella, Enron executive Stephen Cooper. That makes a lot of sense to what happens later.
That was a lead up, wasn't it? Foreshadowing a little bit.
I didn't even have that name, but that's gonna play a lot into wow. The racketeering thing makes sense to me now. I was like, how the fuck did because it's so weird. People just think this was sex trafficking. No. I think the government got involved because there's also racketeering. And and Uncle Sam doesn't like when you take from their money, which I hate to say it, but I think a lot of it was once the money and the numbers started coming in, the government was like, oh, no.
Yeah, we can't be having this.
We can't be having this shit.
Yeah.
Because as I get into this, they begged and pleaded to get this fucking group investigated. You are talking this investigation didn't actually start to like 2013, 2014, somewhere around there, right? But there had been suspicions since the 2000s. 2003 or 4 was when that girl went and disappeared and was in fucking Alaska, and they never found a body. They found a note, didn't find her.
That body is nowhere near Alaska. It was a
And
goose. It was a wild goose chase.
yeah, and Keith proclaimed to his followers that she's living in Mexico, happy, and like, yeah,
I'm sure
if
she
she's
is.
living there, I got a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn.
That's right.
Like,
That's right.
So you have these high-powered people, right? And some of this, to be fair, these Hollywood or rich people, you know, they don't look into this shit. They don't care, right? They hear something from a friend of a friend, and that's what it sounds like with a lot of this stuff, right? You hear this thing, you hear that thing. Oh, this course helped me, right?
Yeah.
And they bring someone in. So this guy had a great thing going because you get one of those big people, they're going to bring a friend who's going to bring a friend who's going to bring a friend, right? And what most people don't know was Keith Reiner was originally in business. He sold those kinds of pyramid schemes.
Yeah. He had he had travel and insurance or something like that, or furniture. He had, I don't know, he had something where he sold pyramid wise. He was with Amway, and that's where he got the idea of, well, you know, if we can do this with soap, I can definitely do it with humans.
Like,
because that's the next natural progression, right?
That
logically
boggles that boggles my mind. That boggles my mind. Like, how you even think, you know what, this is great, you know, but this whole thing of like furniture, what can I do that's people?
Yeah.
Fucking people. And
they're never ending.
They're everywhere. And then, you know what I could do? I can get other people to sell the other people, right? Yeah. And these people will be so fucked up here by the time they're just going to be willing to, by the time you go down these tiers, fuck over these other people. It's, oh my God. Like, it boggles my mind that anybody is sick enough to think of something this fucked up. Like, sure, this is the world, but you never think until you hear about it. Like, it just doesn't register until you read about it. Like, holy shit, this dude was mass humanly selling people. Like, holy fuck, this is a thing. This happened. And just recent. Keep in mind, this has been going on since Harvey Weinstein was on trial, and Keith just got sentenced recently. I read the article from like 2021 was when they have the final verdicts and things, and he's been in jail. But like 2020, 2021 was about the time where he actually got his sentence. This started 2015, 16. That's how long they were able to drag this out until he got convicted. The Glare says, if that was true, where would be some sort of revenue service for the government, an eternal one? Hashtag do your homework. No, this is true, man. There was this dude was trafficking people. He was creating a way to like, I don't even know what his end goal was, like, to this day, because he didn't get to what the full plan was. He had gotten tons of people into this. So and it's interesting because Indiana had gotten into this because of her mom, which I don't blame her mother. Her mother had heard it from somebody that these were good courses.
Yeah, well, that's just it. For the people who went, so apparently like Jennifer Aniston and what's his face?
Gerard Butler.
That's him. They were there, but I'm sure they would only go for like one course and then go on their way, right? You get what you need and then you leave. Or they heard the hype and they just wanted to see what it was all about. who cares? It's, a couple grand for them. No big deal. So when you have celebrities doing something like that, you like other celebrities are like, oh, well, if you're doing that, then I'm going to go do it too. So people do take their kids. Like that's how Lisa Remini, like that's how she got into Scientology. Her mother.
Yep. Took her.
So you go and you don't know that you're walking, like no one knew they were walking into this bear trap. Absolutely no one knew what they were walking into. Everyone just assumed that it was just like every other self-improvement like thing. And you would come in, you would get your positivity boost, you would get some tools, and you would leave. Not realizing that if he wanted you, you were never fucking leaving.
And I'm going to go through the nitty-gritty because this gets really crazy. But even just the setup of this, I want to give you guys sort of the perspective and what's going on before I dive into the really deep nitty-gritty of this. But this is just the onset, right? So I'm sure everyone who's listening to this, you're already hearing alarm bells ringing. Look, I know what people are going to do when they come into this, or they might catch this and rewatch this, be like, how could you fall for this? It's so fucking obvious. Like, I'm listening to what you're saying and I'm saying, wow, stupid, right? We could all sit here and say how,
very easy.
Oh no, that I would never do that. But just think about it, right? How many times have you gone somewhere with a buddy to do something, right? And you didn't expect to like it, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And you wind up going and they're like, that wasn't that bad or something like that. These groups don't come out and say, hey, we're the next big cult. You guys come on in.
Yeah,
like
it's
we got Kool-Aid in the back. Nobody does that. They disguise it as something you need. And these people are the best con artists in the world.
Yeah.
And the thing that pisses me off about this is that how do I keep on getting this? Here we go. Okay. There we go. I keep on getting some webcam thing. I swear I didn't go on anything.
What
but it's like they don't promote themselves as this one thing. They promote themselves as something that's missing in your life that you need. And when I watched this documentary, when you start from part 1, some of the stuff I heard was like, questionable. Holy shit. By the time you get to part 3 or 4 and you get into what started to go down, the serious meat and potatoes of what was going down, it was crazy. These women were mentally violated. They were emotionally violated. They were financially violated. And in some very sad cases, there were some physical stuff in there too.
Yeah.
And why I wanted to talk about this and bring this up in this series, diving into all of these groups. And I thought to myself, I was going to take a day, right, and cover it all. But then I'm looking at these individual groups and they all have so much stuff. You can't just talk about it all in a day. It doesn't do it justice. You really have to break down every single group and what type of thing that they do, because it's all the same shit, but it's just different. There's different little things that they tweak or adjust. Like this guy took the idea of Scientology. He took the idea of the pyramid scheme and a couple of other things and just tweaked it a bit to what he was using. Like, and the thing I want to highlight is we highlight abuse and we highlight what these victims go through and what some people go through that we know and stuff like that. But one thing we should be bringing to light are these powerful companies and these powerful groups being hidden and sheltered behind government tax write-offs, Hollywood stars, a fleet of lawyers and attorneys, and using the law in reverse. They twist it to get it to protect them. Yeah. And the only way to start breaking down the barriers is to talk about it more and is to get it out there, because most people cannot even fathom this shit that they do. I mean, if I didn't tell you about this, I mean, honestly, how much did you know about this before you started digging into it? And we started
I knew. Yeah, I knew. Because it pisses me off because like you're taking something that is supposed to help people and you're using it to your own sadistic benefit. Like you're taking, and the thing is, like the things he was saying, I'm like, oh shit, like I've said that, but not in the way he meant it.
Yeah, and that's
Not
the
in the way, like it was. He would change one word, and you're like, fuck, I can't say that anymore. Like I thought that so many times, like I can't say that anymore because like I can see how that can be twisted in someone's mind to mean something completely different. Instead of being self-empowering, it is saying you you know, you need to accept all these things. Do you know what else he did? And this is how he got them to the point that they were. He would say there are no victims. In the universal grand scheme, only you can decide. And here's the bullshit. I truly believe that if I want to be happy all day, I can be happy all day. No matter what happens in my day, I continue to be happy because it's my choice. If no one else wants to feel that way, that's cool. That's the way I'm going to be living my life. But he said that. He said, you get to feel. He's like, so you know what? Whatever happened to you, if you feel like a victim, that's on you. I was like, oh,
and that's the thing, because it's like you're in my head. I was just gonna read from my notes, people. This is the first topic where I actually like took notes to kind of hone in, because there was so much shittiness
yeah.
that it was hard for me to keep it all in my mind. I was like, oh my God, like there's so many multiple levels of wrong in this story. But he had this mantra, and folks, this is real in the curriculum, that said, I will not choose to be a victim.
Yep.
And he would make the women repeat this. He had in his course, and this is before we get into DOS, because DOS is a whole nother fucked up separate topic, but that's where we're going to get into the women. But in his normal programs, he turned this into using it so that if he asked anybody to do something that felt uncomfortable,
Yeah.
it was a barrier within yourself.
Yep.
Right? You didn't want to do it because you weren't trying to push back your boundaries, which he knew is what in theory coaching is, right? You get people to get out of their comfort zone,
Yeah.
but at their pace.
Yes.
He manipulated this technique to make it sound like if he did or asked you something fucked up, it was you. You weren't trying to be the best you. You weren't trying to push back the boundaries. And this is what Les talks about when she's talking about some things she says and how he was twisting it, because anything can be used right or wrong, right?
Yeah.
And that saying has two meanings, just like everything else could have two meanings, except for blunt things like, misogynistic, I feel, is one pretty generalized.
It's one thing and one thing only. This guy. It's this guy.
But this guy used something that you can take broadly and made it very specific to make the person feel like they were claiming to be a victim when they weren't, when actually, yes, the fuck, they were a victim.
Yes, they were.
Because this crazy motherfucker was mentally torturing them.
Yeah.
Right? And in some instances, emotionally tormenting them, and they were victims. But he put them in a box with this saying where they felt like, well, maybe I am just complaining. Hold on one second. My cute girl. I turned off the camera. All right. Sorry. And let me just tell you something. After I got done with this, I went home and I hugged her and I go, I just want you to know I love you so much.
I noticed that actually.
Oh, yeah.
You were watching all of that, and I was just like, I felt so bad for you.
Yeah, so I came home and I gave my girl a big hug, because when I saw this, I was like, oh my God, like there are men out there who really felt this way. And before we dive into the DOS, so for women, he would make them say, I'll see you later, honey. For women, he would make them say, I will not choose to be a victim. For men, he would tell them, he would have them do these training courses where they would realize, fuck me, I can't believe I'm saying this. They would kind of bring up their inner alpha, right? With men, it was you need to have women see your struggle.
Yeah.
Now look, not saying that in theory there is something to be said about, yeah, men, we do have our own issues that sometimes I feel like are ignored by the opposite sex. And there's
Yeah.
always this back and forth, like, well, no, I have this. And
Yeah.
you're like, yes, I can't compete with that, but I have this, right? And normally that shit you would settle in counseling. This motherfucker was almost brainwashing the men into thinking they had superiority over the women. And keep in mind, folks, we ain't even into DOS yet. This is the regular standard program. And to keep one more thing in perspective, $5 fucking grand a course.
Yeah.
This is the beginner. We'll get into what DOS cost and all of that, and the upper echelon of the male version of that. But $5 grand. I don't give a fuck if the Dalai Lama's giving me a speech. I'm
Yeah.
not fucking paying $5 grand. Are you kidding me? $5 grand. I better be able to sit with the Dalai Lama in his fucking monastery or whatever and feel enlightenment as I'm talking to him.
Yeah, I better get enlightenment. I better get it.
$5 grand. So think about this, folks. This is truly a cult because they are breaking people on every financial, mental, physical, and verbal sense.
Yes.
He was making women every day say, I will not choose to be a victim.
Yep.
Like that.
Yeah.
And I know this because I seen it fucking 3 times and I was getting ready to say it. So there is something to be said about repetition, right?
Well, repetition is the mother of skill.
Yeah. And if you're forcing people to repetitiously say this bullshit about themselves and victim blame, yes, Jenny, exactly. People do that to victim blame men into thinking they're all wrong, it's all messed up, and men are all evil. Yeah.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Here's the thing. This guy, and hey, I'm a man, but I'm willing to admit when there's a piece of shit male, and this guy was making women, he was victim blaming them and making a mantra out of it.
Yeah.
But under the guise that he wasn't, he was saying, you're choosing to be a victim, right? No matter what, it was prep. So that when he did horrible shit, he says that and bam, you're thinking, oh, am I choosing to be a victim?
Yeah. And then you're like, oh yeah, maybe I am. Because do you know what else he did? I noticed he did this is that he would take away that internal gut feeling. He would say, whatever you're feeling, if you feel like something's wrong, he's like, that's just your internal limits and you need to break through those. So if you feel like something's wrong, it's just your limiting belief and you need to keep going. No, goddamn it. If you feel that there is something wrong, there is something wrong. And he's figured it out that what happens for a lot of people, and me included, I've noticed, is that I could be in a room with people and everyone is, saying how much of a great guy this person is. And I'm like, well, I don't feel that, but I'm not seeing anyone else like kind of feeling that maybe this guy isn't quite right. So I go along with it to not be shunned by the group. It's all about not being shunned.
And I mean, yeah, and that's the interesting part because Hollywood starlets and these socialites, right? What is the big thing, the big driving thing with them? It's status and it's perception of how do I put it? It's the perception of being in the group, right?
Yes.
Like you're amongst the people. I mean, the Allison Mack, like when they demonize her, And I've had people say, well, how could you say this was a woman who branded people and
Yep.
she did okay the mark? Yes. But just for a second, first of all, go watch that documentary that Not Another Girl did, or Not a Good Girl did, because it really does illuminate what he did to her. But just imagine
Yeah.
she was in this group 7 fucking years of this man every day,
Yep.
breaking her physically, mentally, and emotionally. She got to a point where she was like a zombie. So
Yeah.
at that point, think about Manson's followers, right?
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. They deserve jail time. They killed someone. But think about how long you've got to be in a group with someone constantly, emotionally, every day, breaking you down every day.
Yeah.
This is no different than what the military employs.
Yeah, you were
Their
saying that. I want more. I want to hear more of that.
their focus, basic training. What do you guys think basic training is, right? You got a group of guys or women who all come from different walks of life, right? We all got different things we think. How do you get all those people to work together? You put them through shit. You break them physically and emotionally. Everything every day is about breaking you. And typically it's to the end of these are your brothers because you need to be able to save that person, right? If something
Right.
should happen. That's the point of the training. It's not to control you and become a zombie or whatever, although you have some people who will say that. And that's a whole stream for another day. I'm not saying that it's the government's necessarily right, but I understand the reasonings now behind it is that they need you to be a tight-knit group. So if something happens, the group and saving the people you're with is the priority, so that by saving them, you might save yourself. Okay. Or you might be able to help other people. It's selflessness in a sense, but it's very much the same. They physically put you through a bunch of tasks. They cut down what you eat. In basic, you can't smoke, you can't drink.
Mhm.
For a while, at least when I was in, we could only eat certain foods
Oh.
until later. Like, it was when I heard this, it was the same fucking thing this guy did, but to
Mhm.
the extreme. And it's because it's getting you to a place where they break you down slowly and they want to rebuild you back up.
Mhm.
Now, in theory, it should be a good thing to build the person anew you. I know it's helped me get through a lot of stuff in my life.
Mhm.
But for some people, it didn't go so well. I seen some people in basic training break. This
Yeah.
girl had broken psychologically, almost killed herself.
No.
There's drawbacks, but here's the
Yeah.
difference. In the military, it's a controlled environment. They got
Yeah.
her help right away. And because she was surrounded by a bunch of people who've been going through this, the response was immediate. So
Mhm.
she got immediate help. There were people who were there throughout the whole thing, and they're like, "You're gonna be okay." I mean, it was just a sad thing. Certain people just can't handle that. But it's in a sense controlled, right?
Yeah.
And there's movies like Full Metal Jacket that it hasn't been like that in years. But now, flash forward to what this guy was doing. How he was employing it was very dangerous. It's the same kind of codependency on other people
Mhm.
while breaking down their body, so you can't psychologically think that well. Because
Yeah.
when your body's deprived of its basic nutritions, your functioning is haywire and
Yeah.
you're kind of in a haze. And nothing easier to program than somebody who can't think clearly. So removing the calories and the things that he
Yeah.
was doing was
And
putting these
sleep.
people, and the sleep, exactly,
Yeah,
keep
sleep
people busy.
deprivation. Yeah, is the best way to manipulate someone is sleep deprive them. That's why narcissists will never let you sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people, like, if your partner will not let you sleep, we got a big fucking problem. Like, your partner should want you to be well rested and taken care of and, fed well. And it, because he used all of the tactics. He used fear, because we are easily controlled when we're in fear. The girls were only allowed to eat 500 calories a day. So they were malnutrition, so their body wasn't responding in any good way, and they were sleep deprived. It's a trifecta of fucking
And
someone up.
And High Ground Cantina had a great point. This is the evil of the conscious mind. Keith
Yeah.
Rayner, uh, operated abuse and manipulation through an organized action plan.
I
That's
love that.
what's scariest the most about this.
Yeah.
And don't worry, next Tuesday, me and Mad Squirrel are going to talk about Scientology because she can't wait. Because that what I've been wanting to come after those motherfuckers.
It scares me. Good for you guys, because they scare me. They scare me. They do. Normally people, places, and things, I don't get this much fear in me when I think about talking about them, but they terrify me.
I was like, you know what? Good fucking luck. If you track me down and threaten me, good luck. Okay. I ain't got much really for you guys to sue me for, so y'all can just kiss the whitest part of my ass.
Ooh.
Like, and here's the thing: they have power, but not as much as they used to. They're starting to lose. They're starting to lose a grip on that. There's starting to be a lot of questions into them, and more people willing to. And God bless, what's her name, who
Remini?
started that show? Remy?
Leah. Yeah.
Leah.
Yeah.
Her. I commend her because, and I'm going to get to the heroes of this show, because there's 4 specific women who are not talked about. And sorry, time for a Zod rant.
Yep.
We have people like fucking Brie Larson and Amber Heard getting fucking speech things, right? And fucking Katherine Heigl and all these other fucking nasty people who are held up as these pioneers of female empowerment. And there are women in this, including Indiana Oxford, who should be fucking the prime example of female empowerment and who should be modeled. These fucking women were tormented. They were abused. They will never be the fucking same. But instead, you want to hold up other people because they take photos better? Or you want to blatantly ignore these women who, in my mind, are legit heroes.
Yeah.
These are the fucking women we should be talking about. Or Scientology, right? That Lena, that escaped, or the numerous other victims there, right?
Yep.
Those are the people we should be holding up on a pedestal.
Yeah, we've got our morals and all fucking backwards, I feel.
Hollywood, no, it's not we. You and me?
No. But I think the collective, the royal we. Not we.
I got what
like
you were
chat
saying.
And we got it figured out.
And this is why I wanted to do this today, no matter how long this is going to take or whatever, because this is important. This is scary. This is endorsed abuse.
Yeah.
That has been going on. So we talked about the psychological stuff. Sorry, I need to chew on this because it's so it's so mentally like my can is almost done from yesterday. This normally lasts me a week.
And you just got it yesterday?
I got it yesterday. I'm almost done. I almost went through a full can listening to this, between rage, sadness, stuff. So let's get to where this is really bad, right? Because we talked about the empowerment angle. So, and then we'll get to the final stuff. I'll keep it as concise as I want to. I don't know how much time you have, so I don't want to keep you for too long. I have no general idea of how long I wanted to go. So,
maybe another 20, half hour 20.
Yeah, that would be good, because and I appreciate your time. So, let's go to the worst part. This is where it goes downhill, and it when they develop DOS. DOS is the actual trafficking part of this. So the beginning parts we talked about and the psychological stuff they were doing was all a setup. It was all leading to this program. And Keith Rayner is recorded on tape as to saying he had an idea, and God only knows what the fuck else this man planned. Okay.
Right.
Keep in mind, on the male side, he was brainwashing them and then training them in martial arts.
Yeah.
And having a base knowledge of weapons. The
fuck was he
women,
planning?
I have even the documentary. No fucking idea. It's vague broad strokes of how bad it could have gone.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. As bad as it is, like it is horrible. It could have been 1,000 times worse.
And thank you, Stevie J. He says, it's really disgusting that this bullshit happened. Good topic. I've got to get going, but have a great stream. Stevie,
Have a good day, Stevie.
You're next, buddy. We got to get together sometime. Me and him are always so busy. He's so busy doing great things. That bastard.
Yes.
He's always him and his charities and doing good for people.
Yeah.
Damn him. Thank you for stopping by and go check out Stephen J. He's really done some great things. So let me pull up something so you guys can get an idea of what this looks like, okay? Because this is something you have to see to believe how crazy the start of this is, and then we'll get into DOS and kind of I'll wrap it up with my own thoughts. But
oh, very good.
Yeah, here's the kind of stuff that they were using. Okay.
All right.
Half of this shit I have no clue what it is, but
okay.
U.S. Navy, right?
Sorry, that was really loud.
Some of our tactics that we employ, right, as a baseline. This is his general setup of how he saw things going. Acting, sci-fi, right? A bit of fiction, feud, ODT, have no clue what that is. Hubbard, right?
For that's Scientology.
Yeah. Theory, hypnosis.
Yeah.
Blander and Griner, neuro-linguistic programming.
Yep, NLP.
Yep. EST. These were the models that he was using. Multi-level marketing.
Yeah.
Objectivism. Judo. Fuck you need judo for? Right?
I'm missing something in my programs, apparently. Apparently it's,
But, I mean, look at this is not just a nut job on the fringes, people.
Yeah.
This is a complex, multi-layered system he was establishing in an effort to reprogram these people.
Yeah.
All with different regiments, all with different theories and ideas. And the crazy part about it all was he was blending it somewhat seamlessly in its execution. Sorry about that. My wonderful woman was texting me saying, "I'll text you when you come home." It's like, okay, honey, I'm still talking. Hey, how are you doing, Christy Reynolds, aka Sugar Mama?
Hey, Sugar Mama.
He was blending all of these things in. So I need you to know, when I say that poor Allison Mack never stood a chance,
She
okay?
didn't.
Let's go down this line here. They were being fed a bunch of bullshit here, okay?
Yeah.
There was military tactics employed here. There was a Freud, right?
Yep.
Psychological aspect here.
Yep.
There was a sense of Freemasonry, right? A brotherhood, a fraternity for the men. There was whatever the fuck this is. I don't know. Okay.
What is that? What does it say?
Theos.
I don't know what that is. I'm going to look it up, though. Now I'm curious of what the hell he used.
Yeah, there was the Scientology. He mixed Scientology theories.
Yeah.
This is the big one, folks. This is the big one where a lot of these women and some of these men I could excuse. There was hypnosis.
Yeah.
Fucking hypnosis.
Apparently, he was a master hypnotist. And that's why he would use the eye contact. And that's why he needed to have that eye contact because he was hypnotizing you. And and when it comes, I'll just say this real quick and then you can get back into this. Allison Mack, she said something and I was like, well, fuck, that's where it is. Like that's the base root. And he took that and he unraveled her with it. She said something about winning a Teen Choice Award. And it was a really sweet comment. And it was a really nice interview. But she said, all actors want is to be loved. was like, oh shit.
So
She doesn't
when
feel loved.
exactly. So she would say in several interviews, because when I was watching this document, they went over every like promo she did.
Yeah.
And it all came back to the theory of wanting to be loved for her.
Yes.
She had clips of her singing and stuff, an amazing voice.
Oh, she does have an
actually.
amazing voice. I had no idea.
Yeah, she has an amazing voice, classically trained. Keep in mind, folks, she was worth $7 million. Now,
Yeah.
in the grand scheme of Hollywood, that's not a lot. For us,
That's a lot of
she's
money.
a freaking millionaire.
Yep.
Okay? 7 times the
Yep.
millionaire.
According
Right?
to Amber Heard, that's a Tuesday afternoon.
Yes. Fucking. Anyways. So she was worth millions.
Yeah.
Now, nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. That's not an exaggeration. That's
No,
not
she got nothing.
hyperbole. She is literally has nothing. She's going to fucking culinary school. Just think about that. She was sought after actress to culinary school.
Yeah.
Everybody in this, except for Keith and this fucking Nancy bitch, was
I couldn't set it back myself about that woman.
and to the psychological aspect, she employed stuff from her profession, right?
Yep.
She was a psychologist.
Yep.
And sociologist and stuff like that.
Yep.
She misused her oath in helping Keith and broke every sacred bond to tell him how to better manipulate people.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't just Keith. Keith got notes from Nancy on how exactly to go about manipulating these fucking people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
Yeah. Here's another one. Thank you, Crummel. Claire Bronfman put $90 million. These people put millions and millions of dollars into this organization. And this is the chart this man used. This is the base model that he used to construct. Have a good day, Planet Q's Queen. Thanks for stopping by. This is the model he was using to replicate success. Okay. He was taking these arguably dangerous fields if not used right.
Yes.
And this was my whole point of having you, right?
Yeah, it's very dangerous.
And how you conduct yourself versus that if people use the stuff it could be dangerous.
It could.
And I mean, really, it's like anything, but this is stuff that is so destructive in the wrong hands. And it's funny because coming from shooting guns and things like that, right? People always make this argument about guns being dangerous and stuff, and they are. But at the end of the day, they're just tools, right? You don't pick it up. It doesn't do anything unless there's an operator.
Yeah.
Like with that fucking idiot Baldwin. I've been going on weeks about that. So, when an idiot is operating something, then yes, it could be dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
But this is not like that. This is something someone could teach themselves, and maybe not with the success like you would have because you have years of knowing what to do.
Yeah.
But you could have some small success with just learning a couple of things. And it's scary because these manipulators and stuff can learn this shit.
Yep. Well, let me tell you, I've got an NLP book that could do a lot of damage if in the wrong hands. I was just going to go grab it, but it's buried. Like it's buried. Like that's how often it gets pulled out. I don't think I've opened it in 10 years. Like it can be so useful, but it's so damaging. And people don't want to use something that is known in the public realm of being used by people like pickup artists. Why would I have my, my clients that I want to see them, go off and do amazing, huge things and just be happy? Why would I offer them a service that is such in a bad light? Like, I just don't want to do that.
Yeah, and you know what? If you did, Liz, I have no doubt that you'd be the kind of person to use it in the right way, just because of the conversations we had, the stuff you talk about on your channel.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, too, with something like that, it's very tempting, especially if you
Yes.
get in the situations where you really do want to help the person. And it was destructive with Allison. When you see everything, and I believe this with my heart, because she never said it. It was just what she gave off. I believe she wanted to help people. She, in
Yeah.
her mind, really did want to help people.
Yeah.
And that's how they got Indiana, too, is these two wanted to help people legitimately. I believe Indiana more so afterwards because of the fact that she never actively participated. And this was proven by the prosecutor and the
Yeah.
DEA. She got out of that, thankfully, because she never did anything that was truly. She did recruit people, but her recruits wind up getting out. And as a matter of fact, her pod was the only one who didn't brand their women. The people she recruited avoided that because that was around the time where Keith was starting to come under investigation. So they put a hold on some of their stuff, and her group found out and they got the fuck out. And she
Yeah.
let them. There was in the documentary, she didn't like giving them punishments and things like that. So getting to DOS, what was DOS? DOS's meaning was, it was a Latin word. I'm not even going to try to say, but it comes out to master servant.
Yeah.
It's
Master slave.
what it's what a lot of dominatrix would use. And once again, that's another field, right? That's very on that line, but it could be used helpfully.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
Yeah, it
could
can.
be used to help people, but it could also be used to make people enslaved to
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
DOS is the most fucking terrible thing I've ever heard of. And the program started in about, let me see.
Well, it was shit. When was it?
It was bolstered by October 2017, but I wanted to say it ramped up about 2015, 2014, according to the document Seduced by Light. The groundwork started at about 2014. 2015 was when they started with, like, Allison Mack had recruited Indiana into the program first.
Mm-hmm.
So her and Allison were kind of the beta testers of this. Oh, fuck, it sounds, I'm sorry. It's hard. It sounds so crazy to even say it like that, but they were really the first run.
Yeah.
And when you watch the documentary on Allison Mack, she was pressured into getting this up and going. She was going to be in charge of this section, but everybody was really going to report to Keith.
Mm-hmm.
So how this worked is, yes, Allison, in a sense, was like the first in command, the first to this program, but she was so far gone. Because remember, she was introduced in fucking 98 at the beginning, 98, 99, by Kristen Kirkhoff, whatever, from Smallville, who played Lana. Kristen introduced her, and somewhere along the line, she got the fuck out. So she must have seen something or saw how Allison looked or something, and she was like, fuck that, and got out. But she was in there for a while too, and she was the one who introduced Allison. So she was brought in by her. So she was duped along with everybody else.
Oh yeah. And the thing is,
prize.
With all of the people that were part of Nxivm, no one knew about this little hub of DOS. No one knew about it. So it's very easy for people to say, oh, well, every single person who was a member of Nxivm, they're all guilty. They had no idea. He was so good at convincing people that he never slept. He didn't need to eat. He was perfect. He was this. He actually said that he was the smartest man in the world because the Guinness Book of World Records, I think, is like there's only one edition and it's in German or something. Says Australia. That he has. It was Australia, of course. It was Australia.
I
It
only
was in
remember
Australia.
that Stevie was in here.
Yeah, it was it was the only edition that ever said he had the highest IQ, and I can't for the life of me figure out how he made that happen, because he is a genius. He is. He is far beyond anything that I can, fathom in the way of how his mind works. But he's clearly not the smartest person. He fucking got caught.
He's not smart in the sense of like when you think of corporate people who get away with this shit for years,
Yeah.
they have a different kind of smarts to them,
Yeah.
more of a street level manipulation.
Yeah.
He wasn't that kind of smart. He was very book uh and logically like uh the way he put systems together. He was very, I don't know what that's called, like it was very book smarts kind of a thing. But
Uh-huh.
uh when it came to the street smarts or knowing who was going to do what, he put too much trust in that. And at the end, that fucking dumb bitch from Battlestar Galactica was the one who got him caught because she took that picture exposing where they were.
Yeah.
Right. And Crummell, thank you, had her name up, Kristen Carrick. So yeah, he has an IQ of 240. That is
Is that verified?
and Christy Reynolds says it wasn't verified IQ test. So,
Exactly, because there's only one version of that. There was only one book that they could find that had his name in there with the highest IQ. No other book had it. No other Guinness Book World had it. So
with
like,
the way
so I ask, how did he make that happen?
I even in the documentary, nobody knows.
Yeah,
Nobody. There's a
no
lot
one
of
knows.
things. No, there's a lot of things that they suspect he did, but nobody. He came out virtually out of nowhere. Pretty
Yeah.
much before he started this ESP, he was anonymous businessman doing his thing, and then all of a sudden had this idea and broke through on the scene. Here's the interesting part: their finances, and I looked this up, was number 2 to Scientology's. Just think about that.
What?
Scientology has the most finances, and this guy was number 2. This is
Holy
how he got away with
shit.
it for years. He threw $1 million like it was nothing. When they raided him, they found money for in Nancy Salzman's house.
Yeah.
They found fucking boxes of thousands of dollars, and that's not even, that was what she had.
That's
And they
rainy
thought
day money.
that was get out of jail money. Um, you know, there was no telling how much other stuff he had to the side besides this. And that's the scary part. So to kind of bring things home and then get to final thoughts, what came out of this, right? So DOS, what did they do? Just a couple of things. It was an organization of women that was supposed to be led by women under the guise of, and stop me if you guys have heard this before, female empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
Female
Yep.
empower. Oh, I'll see you later, Jenny. So good to have you. Thank you
Take
for.
care, Jenny. Good to see you.
Yeah, she's awesome. They use the guise of female empowerment, and this is why I bitch about Hollywood throwing this around, because it's a very dangerous, like, we talk about words and their meanings, right? That's been a big thing we've been talking about, and how this man manipulated those words for his own ends.
Yeah.
And this is why it's dangerous how Hollywood plays this game. So many arguments and fights are started over these words. They have power and they have meaning. And when you throw female empowerment, especially in this era, you can get a lot of people on board with these ideas off of false pretense. And he played and had a woman of Allison Mack at that time. She had some weight. You have her talking about female empowerment.
Yeah.
And talking about how this is my group. This is for women.
Yeah.
And this is where I think she deserves the blame, okay? The setup was she would recruit the women.
Yeah.
They belonged to her. She was their master, and they were her slaves. They would have to wake up every morning and say, "Good morning, master." They would have to go to bed and say, "Good night, master." And once again, warning, some of this stuff I bring up will be triggering. But I really need to hit home how dangerous this is. Okay.
We
Go
forgot about the
ahead.
collateral. We forgot about the collateral. And
Oh,
that's
I'm
why.
getting to that. I wanted to
Okay.
bring up the first end of this because
Okay.
that leads into that. But she had this regiment. Now, how did you get into the group? Like you said, collateral. What is collateral? Here's the amazing thing. Half of the women who at this point had been going through this regiment of being emotionally, physically, mentally broke down, they wanted to advance. So they'd wait to the point to where there were different tiers, and you wanted to get to a higher tier. You had already spent thousands, sometimes millions of dollars. And she came and said, hey, you get into this group and you will be elevated. But here's the catch. To show your dedication, we need collateral. Nobody, which amazes me, because you had people like Indiana, a couple of well-known people who would think that they know what collateral was. But to her fairness, she was kind of young. You know, her mother would have probably known, and she did once she realized, and her daughter told her these things. But collateral is something damning against them. It could be something about their family, a naked picture of themselves, anything that they could use. So if you backed out of the group, they would expose this to the world.
Yeah.
And this is the sickest part, and where for me, after watching this, I kind of had to distance myself with this Allison argument, because there comes a point where you can't excuse someone's behavior. And this was really the point. And keep in mind, she had been in this group like 7 years. Keith had her teaching acting courses, singing, doing these drills, running coaching. You go to events. Picture your whole entire day filled with basically busy work to keep you busy and not thinking about it. Hey, Mickey, how are you? I'm doing pretty good. Picture busy work to keep you active and not thinking, because that's what they want, right? So when they ask you something, your mind is so focused on other things, you're like, oh yeah, sure, that sounds reasonable. You know, we all get to that point. How many times have you gotten tired to where you're like, you get a question and you're like, yeah, whatever, because you're so tired.
I was married to one of these fuckers, so yeah, I get it. I know exactly how she got here.
Yeah, and it's crazy too, because we think about our decisions of being with a wrong person. That was just one person.
Exactly.
This is thousands of people that are being used like this, right? So they would get this collateral, this damning information, right? And you would think it would stop with this one thing. But as time went on, they would get more and more collateral. They would ask, it got to a point where every day they would have to give them something, whether it was true or not, to this group. Literally, Indiana in the documentary talks about how she, her and the people in her group were so nervous that they would just make shit up, because there was nothing else to give. There was nothing suspicious, because they were so entrenched in this group that they were being monitored with everything they did. So there was nothing to give. So at a point, you're making up stuff, getting it notarized. And that's the most dangerous, because it can't be proven, because it's not true, right? How many times we're seeing that with Depp? Right? So if it works on that level, I mean, this is stuff that's hard to prove. Like,
it's impossible to prove a negative. Prove it didn't happen. Well, I can't.
Yeah, exactly. There were some people, some rich and powerful people's kids who were in here who were saying their daughters would write these letters saying they were raped by an uncle or something. Not true. But they got it notarized and everything else as if it was true. And they go to psychiatrists to work this out, who would then make statements about how it was true. And the opposite, if someone's mental health was being questioned, they would bring in their own psychologist to say, oh no, here's a licensed psychiatrist right here, because he had licensed fucking therapists. And they would say, no, this person's perfectly fine. I saw nothing wrong. Here's my official document. And one of them was arrested and disbarred. Thank God.
Thank God.
But
But
it
that's
got
just one out of a sea of problem people.
Oh yeah, yeah. There was literally a guy performing illegal experiments, and a big trigger warning for this because this is very graphic. But he would hook men and women up to a chair. He would show them scenes of violence, particularly women, and he would gauge their reaction with this cap he had on that, like, it measures human brain waves
Okay.
to see how far he could push them before they wanted to look away. And even when they did, Keith or Nancy would come in and they would go, this is just boundary pushing or
Yeah.
whatever.
It's your limiting
And
belief. Your limiting belief.
yes, exactly. That was the word, limiting belief.
Yeah.
That's what they would use to get these people to watch. And I'm talking about like historically, like Holocaust videos, all sorts of crazy shit to see when they would get back. Did Allison ever get money for working for this guy? No.
No, she paid him.
And this is the thing where I say she's not completely a monster in this. She did this group because he cornered her financially. Here's the story. She was supposed to be getting paid for these acting lessons she was giving. It started with an acting course she was running and theater. Once he broke her in that and had her start DOS, he was saying, if you could get Indiana, who is royalty, her mom was on Dynasty, okay?
Yep.
Then
Get her in.
Get her in and get her by your side. I will pay you, and I will pay everybody who starts recruiting these people. See, he would tell the people who made it to this level to get into DOS that they were going to be paid. Now, under the surface, he insulated himself by throwing her under the bus, essentially, and saying she was in charge of the group.
Mhm.
But really, he was. And later, audio came out proving he came up with the concept from the fucking branding. The branding, it was inverted to look like an elemental sign or some bullshit.
Yeah, the elements of earth, water, fire, and
fire, whatever. But if you
Yeah.
turned it sideways, it's read KR, Keith
Yeah.
Raniere.
And apparently, did you see that her initials were in there too, if you looked really closely?
Yeah, the A, which was in the thing.
Yeah.
So she's not blameless, but she was very much manipulated too.
She was gone.
She was gone at that
Allison
point.
had left the building.
Her mental faculties, and even Smallville's Michael Rosenbaum went on his podcast and talked about a situation where he saw
Mhm.
her in his apartment. They just fucking came in.
Yeah.
And
He started cooking.
Yeah. And he was like, hey, what the fuck are you guys doing? Like, and it got to a point where he had to tell them, and I quote, get the fuck out.
Yeah.
And when I heard that, I was like, man, Michael's a beast. Like, yeah, I love Michael Rosenbaum. I love his personality. I love his podcast and what he tries to do. He's a great guy because he's all about like that, making people feel good. That's kind of like his tagline.
Yeah.
But when he talks about this, he said he knew her since the beginning of Smallville. And he said that was not her. Yeah. He goes, whatever was in his apartment was a shell of what she used to be. Yeah. He goes, years ago, she would have said something to these people. And he goes, I sat there and I waited for her to say something, anything. And he goes, it was like no one was home.
Yeah.
Completely vacant. And that's the highlight. All of these women were victims, every one of them, except for Nancy. Fuck Nancy.
Fuck Nancy.
I really hope they put her under the fucking jail because she, as a woman, okay, that's the biggest thing. And it brings it back to Amber, right? Mm. As a woman, she did this to other women.
Yeah, that's the thing.
As a woman,
I can't wrap my head around that.
Like, just in your opinion, why would she do this to other women? Like, having that perspective, why would she do this?
I don't know. She must be just as sick as him. She must. I don't know. I don't know what she was getting out of that relationship. because I do know that after like a couple of, what they said was, I say I know, like I was there. But what they said is that when she first met him, she said he was a complete psychopath, and then came back 3 days later and said, "You have no idea who this man is." Like she just thought this, like he was like some kind of god. And so I don't know what she was getting out of that relationship. I just don't. And
So
that might indicate, like what she was getting out of it might indicate somehow why she would want to do that to these women. Like maybe it was a punishment because she wanted to be the Allison Mack. She wanted to be his most prized possession, and it was never going to be her. So she's like, well, I got to destroy them all. There could be a myth because she just could be sick in the head to begin with. She could have been just as broken down as Allison. Like we don't know what he did to her either, but fuck her. Because she was there from the very beginning. Very beginning. She knew exactly what she was doing.
Because when you think about it, her and him started this in 98, and I can't trace back to where she was directly involved. She built the curriculum, so it wasn't him employing these techniques.
Yeah, it was her.
She built that curriculum.
Yep.
She brought the psychology into it.
Yeah.
That's the fucking mind-boggling thing. She knew being in that field what this stuff does.
Mm-hmm.
She was in that field, and many psychologists and stuff are in that documentary who talk about that. Like they still can't figure out what her motives exactly was, because she knew and took the same oaths they did, and completely blatantly ignored them. So I'm gonna finish this off with some happiness, as in what happened to these people.
Yes.
And then we'll kind of wrap it up, and I'll give my conclusions as to why I'm bringing this up and even talking about this, because this has become important to me, because everybody in this community does kind of talk about these things, right? You, Stevie, you've all brought up things to help bring knowledge and recognition to this abuse that happens, to help people, like people in our audience and things like that.
Yeah.
For me, this is much deadlier because it's, as I've said several times, endorsed abuse. They are funded by the government. They are protected by the law. They are using the Constitution and the law and twisting and manipulating it to continue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't worry. I'll get to my rant when I read off the names. So the people who were involved and were convicted, these were the main players. This piece of shit, Keith Rayner, was found guilty of racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, attempted sex trafficking conspiracy, forced labor conspiracy because of the regiment and the work hours, and wire fraud. Really weird one in between there. 120 years in prison.
Nice.
Allison Mack, who did plead to racketeering and racketeering conspiracy. The other charges she didn't get because when they dug into it, the prosecution found that she was also manipulated in this. And keep in mind, this is a tough thing to convict on, because on the women end, you don't know who was manipulated and who willingly went along with it. It becomes very murky because everybody besides Nancy and Keith were open to being played, manipulated, coerced. And we're talking, folks, not your typical they say something. This was hypnosis. This was very dangerous, mind-altering techniques, just short of drugs. This is some serious shit that they were doing to people, and we don't know how fucked they were by the time you get to 2016.
Yeah.
You're talking 7-8 years of non-stop torture.
Yeah.
That's what it was. 7 to 8 years of non-stop torture and mental abuse. And yes, Lemon Pie, that's how I approach. They had to approach it to get this fucker. I think racketeering is running a criminal organization. Yes, they could not get him because, unfortunately, the field of manipulation is so vague that the law knows they could never convict on the premise of you being manipulated, because it comes down to a he said, she said. It's very hard to prove. It's how the black ops and shit has gotten away with the shit they've done for years, because it's a very gray line and moral ambiguity. And unfortunately, while morale does come into the courtroom, it's what about facts and justice and tangible evidence. So the prosecution, and heads up to the heroes of the prosecution, they knew they couldn't get this guy on the horrible shit he did to them. But what they could get him on was conspiring and running a criminal empire. Because like a fucking idiot, he did not do what Scientology did. He didn't invest in anything that could shell the money off. He
Right.
had boxes of money. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and he didn't do a lot of things with taxes. So what can the government get you on? Taxes, money laundering, things like that, stuff that falls into the racketeering category, right? So they had to get him on these racketeering charges and make that stick, and then bring to light this other shit. And when and Indian Oxford, God bless her, if you ever get a chance, because she like peruses things that are said about her and streams and stuff like that, if you ever see this, you're a fucking hero, and you should be proud of yourself
Yeah,
for
she did
the
awesome.
brave thing you did. She was instrumental in finding the recordings that put this piece of shit to jail and brought to light to the jury what he was doing. Because when you hear someone getting branded, it sounds like fucking fiction. All right.
Yeah.
You don't think we're really doing that. But
Yeah.
hearing the recording about him giving orders and talking about what the brand was going to be.
And not only that, Zod, I actually did write this down when it came to the branding. He knew what the fuck he was doing, because what he did was he said the rules are the girls have to ask for it. So they can never turn around and say, you did it to me against my will. I didn't ask for this. Fuck
Yeah.
him.
And he's recorded saying this.
Yes. Yeah.
He said you have to tape it and you have to get them. It was in their fucking ceremony
Yes. Yeah.
that they had to repeat back that they were submitting to this.
Yeah.
This was in part 3, and this was when I had to turn off the documentary several times, because I'm sitting there watching these poor girls being forced to recite this mantra. And I'm not going to lie, folks, for all 23 people watching, thank you, by the way. We reached almost 30, so thanks for that. And everybody who will watch. I cried. I'm not too man enough to admit it. Because she breaks down, and they show like these cartoon pictures, because it's just too much to reenact. So it was very tasteful how they did the documentary. Instead of reenacting the scenes with people, they used like a cartoon kind of portraits, and I broke down. I don't know why it hit me so hard. Maybe because I have a daughter, and oof, sorry. And listening to what
you're a human with feelings and a heart.
And listening to, oh my God, sorry. Listening to the lady from Dynasty. What the fuck is her name?
Oh,
I
I
should
forget her
know.
name.
I know her last name is Oxford, but she was instrumental in it too.
Well, she went to town trying to get her daughter's attention.
Oh yeah, she was the one who brought it to the media's attention.
Yeah.
And this is a sign of a true actress who went out there and put herself out there and knew it was going to be damaging to herself and her daughter and did not care. And when she describes the feeling of losing her daughter and feeling personally responsible because she introduced her daughter to this, it hit me hard. Like hearing her, because I thought about being a father. And thank you, Catherine Oxenberg. Thank you, Crummel. Catherine, like my heart goes out to her too, because hearing that, I just think to my God, holy fucking shit, what would I do for my daughter? I'd burn, disclaimer, I'd burn that fucking place to the ground, to be honest with you. I would, because what any parent would do. And it showed me something I hadn't seen in Hollywood in a while. This was not a big starlet, someone who's close to royalty. This was a mother concerned about her daughter.
Yeah.
And when they hug each other at the end, I mean, I couldn't handle it. I'm getting
Yeah.
teary-eyed talking about it, but
You okay?
yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Don't apologize.
Uh, it really fucking hit me hard, and I
Yeah.
had doubts about doing this stream because of the topic, but it was like, no, this should be highlighted because
Yeah.
this was so swept under. Harvey Weinstein was more important than this fucking guy. This guy
Yeah.
is more terrible than Weinstein by a mile. I'm not saying Weinstein isn't a terrible prick, because he is. But the Hollywood structure was created by them and was endorsed by a lot of actors and actresses. Not saying it's right,
Mhm.
but they created that system. These people never asked for this.
Right.
This was done to them.
Yeah.
This man did this. This man violated these women and created multiple abused victims, and simultaneously was creating future abusers with
Yeah.
what he was programming the men to do. He
It's like an
had
army
men,
or something. I can't fathom what he was trying to do.
they were trained like a military. The
Yeah.
men were considered vanguards, protectors, and the women were, I don't know what the fuck he saw them as.
Commodity things. They were
A
just things.
commodity things. It was, I mean, it was tough for me to get through because being in this community, covering Johnny Depp, seeing and hearing some of the stories, especially when me, Keely, and Gary did a thing about abuse in our experience,
Mm.
and that was tough. But seeing the consequences of that, and knowing, like, wow, like, he created this feeling
Mhm.
in all of these other people. We're talking
Yeah.
about thousands of people were in this group.
Yeah. He's a very talented. He is the talented Mr. Asshole. That's who he is. And
And
very good at what he does.
and thank God, there were a couple. There was Claire Bronfman, who pleaded guilty to conspiring to conceal, harbor an undocumented immigrant for financial gain and fraudulent use of identification. So
Wow.
basically, they had people from Mexico because they had a Mexican base. They were harboring illegal immigrants and forcing them into slavery.
Oh my God.
Real talk. And two of the immigrants got pregnant, and Keith forced them to get an abortion.
Yeah.
It
Yeah, I heard that was going rampant. And he also told everyone, let's not skim over this one. He told everyone in his congregation that he was celibate. Meanwhile, he's doing them all.
he is he was telling people all these lies.
Yep.
He told people he could fucking change the weather.
Yes. Yep.
Like,
And the
and
thing is, people believed it. This is the thing. People with head on their shoulders believed. This is how good he was at manipulating people's thought process. Because I believe the government can change the weather. I don't believe we can. Maybe we can. I don't know. But him changing weather? No. No.
Lemify says this is reminding me of that Oregon call. Yep. In the 70s, this guy's has been likened to that. Jonestown, a little bit of Jonestown in there. Some Manson family.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people and things mixed into this kind of thinking. And even now to this day, him in prison had a bunch of his crazy people led by the lost soul from Battlestar Galactica doing fucking dances outside of his court, suggestively dancing to him.
Yep.
Even years after this group's disbandment, which is kind of a murky thing because it's said that some of them are still active under a different name.
Yeah. The lost something, the lost. What are they go? Oh shoot! What are they going under? The lost. Oh, the forgotten ones. They're not
The
lost
forgotten
anything. The
ones,
forgotten
yeah.
ones.
Generation Production says at Mr. Zod's Phantom Zone, this group that sucked Allison Mack. Damn, I really liked her until she got sucked in. Now I feel sorry for her. Yeah, I met her.
Mm.
I met her at a fucking convention. She was one of the nicest people I've met. I've met two people that are like the crowning achievement and a bunch of musicians, but her and Bruce Campbell, that I paid a hefty fee for. Well worth it. Bruce is a great guy, but I met her at like a convention when they were it was a Comic-Con and it had Smallville there because at the height it was pretty popular. And I wanted to meet Rosenbaum and Welling, but for some reason something happened and they couldn't make it. And they tell you that, you know, things are subject to change. So they had to get Conroy and somebody else to come for the DC wing. And you could see this energy and like bright, like very optimistic, funny, just wonderful personality. And then you skip ahead to her recent interviews or even her court case, and she looks so beat up,
Yeah.
weathered, zombie like it's going to take years for her to recover.
Yeah.
Because she's so far gone. And India talks about her experiences, and it really brings you to tears. She talks about goes to a psychiatrist. She talks to people from the prosecution. She talks about what she was thinking at the time and where her mind was at. And it's heartbreaking because all I saw is like, what if my daughter had been involved? Because of the way he maneuvered this.
Yeah.
It was like a group that was about helping each other, right? And that's what most cults are. They create the false community.
Yes.
They create the false sense of belonging because that's the shtick. Because even if you don't like the orders given, you're with these people. They become like family. So
it's fake love.
Yeah, it's artificial attachments created to keep you tethered to one sick fuck.
Yeah. And he love bombs like nobody's business. He gaslit them. He had them in fear. He had them sleep deprived. He had them food deprived. He got them pregnant and, you know, made them do horrible things in that situation. Like the abuse doesn't end. That's the thing. It doesn't end financially, emotionally, everything. From tip to tail, they were abused.
This is the example of what we talk about. And it's kind of funny because as I'm reading into this, you could see all this shit in Amber too.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yep.
It to a T. Financial, emotional, physical. I want to even say spiritual because God bless you. He was probably like he's a very spiritually, emotionally connected person. Could only imagine the shit he was thinking.
Yeah.
And it gave me a better perspective. Like, holy shit. And she's small time compared to this.
Oh yeah.
Like she's just a kind of a grifter where this is a mass, highly funded. And this is what pisses me off about the whole thing, Les. This is the biggest key that I wanted to highlight today because it'll be a running theme in these streams. This was funded. This was funded and protected for years by people in high power and cops and attorneys and governors at one point. He lost a governor after the shit started going, but he was protected because the governor's daughter was in this group. He was protected by a governor at a point.
Yep.
So, and this is what the other group, Scientology, does, right? They are so entrenched in these different apparatuses that the very laws that are supposed to protect the people are protecting these groups under the guise of that they're doing all these great things when they're all full of fucking shit.
Yeah.
Every last one of them.
Yeah.
They're fucking using people and manipulating people. And it's fucking sick and disgusting. And nobody wants to talk about it, but yet everybody wants to get on a kick about how they're so empowering. Hollywood, actors and actresses. Oh, what about these people? Oh, that's right. You can't say anything because you're probably entrenched in this bullshit.
Yeah.
right? Because
It's a
as
rabbit hole
much
for
as they
sure.
don't want to admit it, actors and actresses are still fucking people.
Yeah.
And they are not immune to the effects of being lied to, manipulated, and coerced.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how much of a big fucking high horse you sit on. You're talking about, when you get into Scientology, you're talking about people like Tom Cruise, John Travolta. These are
Yep.
not small figures.
No,
You're talking about big power players
but just
manipulating.
humans at the end of the day.
Exactly. They are
Just
just
humans.
people who
Yeah.
get manipulated. So, in conclusion, to wrap this up, let me start with you because I got a lot to say. So, what are your final thoughts? And let me narrow it down. What's your final thoughts about this whole thing? And what do you think? Or what could you suggest for actual programs that help people? Like, we need a spin for that. This isn't just coaching, because at the end of the day, empowerment seminars and things like that, they are money makers. They have slimy things to them, but they have there's good people.
Yes.
You're one of those good
Well,
people.
thank you. Thank you.
So what is
Appreciate
the
that.
suggestion you can give to people out there so that they don't fall into this kind of a trap?
Yeah, I was just thinking too, like there was that whole Bikram hot yoga fiasco. There was another yoga guy who kind of did the same thing. Like I feel that anywhere where they can take advantage of any kind of love bombing and any kind of loneliness that someone might be feeling in any kind of they're going to find your insecurities and they're going to use them against you. So it's rampant across anything. I guess anything that's kind of lovey and feel good and I just want everyone to be happy kind of deal. There's always going to be someone to take advantage of that, because who's coming to you like me? I'm like, yeah, I want everyone to be happy. Well, guess who's coming to me? Unhappy people. They are so vulnerable. They're so vulnerable at that time that in the wrong hands, anything can happen. Absolutely anything. So how can we pay attention? Well, listen to your gut. If someone tries to tell you not to listen to your gut instinct, get the fuck out. Get
If
out.
you are in a Keith Raniere type situation where they say that is a barrier,
Yes. So you're just your
listen.
limiting belief.
Fuck it, man.
And the
I
thing
wanted to
is,
throw
limiting
something.
beliefs are real things. Like people have limiting beliefs around having great relationships or making a lot of money. It's a limiting belief around that, not a limiting belief of, okay, well, now you're going to do all of these sexual things for me because that's a limiting belief. No, a limiting belief is I'm not good enough to make enough money, or I'm not good enough for this great relationship that I want. That's usually the base limiting belief, is I'm not good enough, not you need to do all these things for me or to me.
Yeah, and I think I'm right in saying there's not a sexual component to it, and that's another thing I
No.
noticed. It was
Yes.
a
No,
very
there should never
sexual.
be, there should never ever run. Never.
And
You shouldn't even be friends with your coach or your therapist or your anything. There is a definite line that does not get crossed. I am not friends with my clients. I love them, but I'm not friends with them.
you're not gonna like go out for drinks or something like that,
No.
because then
No.
you break. And it's just like with psychology or anything else, right? There's the doctor patient
Yes.
relationship. You're
Yeah.
never going to have a doctor, or at least a good one, who's going to go out for drinks with their clients or do off-hour things, because at
Right.
that point, personal things about them that can be used to influence their decisions. So
Exactly.
that's why, and sometimes people, I always had that problem till I realized, and I started digging into it, like, why do I feel like they're distant from me? But they're distant for a reason. They're
Yeah.
keeping it on that level. A good psychiatrist is keeping it on that level for a reason, because
Yep.
he knows he can directly influence you. And
Yeah.
he doesn't want you to be influenced by decisions you're making. He wants you to come to those decisions
Yeah.
naturally, and they're just a guiding light. They're a lamppost for when you're lost,
Yeah.
to get back to where you need to be. That's what it should be like.
Yeah.
And if they're planting these suggestions, then they're not actually trying to help you. They're trying to help themselves. They see
Right.
something they can get out of you that they're missing.
Yeah.
And Keith, at the end of the day, was missing what? Because weirdly enough, though sexual things were done, he never actually touched anyone. And that was the thing that mystified a lot of people, except for the girls, the Mexican girls. That was the exception. But this Doss one, he never touched them. There was an incident it was leading into. I'm not going to say, just watch the Seduced by Light thing at about part 4. There was a crazy thing it was leading to. Group-wise, with a bunch of women. I'm going to leave it there.
Yeah,
You
your
could use
coach
your
or your
imagination.
therapist should not be doing that with you.
Yeah. That was one of the things, and I think that was the line he was getting ready to cross. I think he was going through this evolution of kicking things up a notch, and thank God this crazy monster was stopped before anything too serious happened, a Waco or something like that. But I feel in my heart that it was leading to that point. We were going into Jim Jones, Waco, that kind of territory, because of the way he was imploring this and how quickly things were escalating. It was getting to that kind of a point. Hey, TJ at work, I just wanted to acknowledge you. Lily Potter says, this happened in Buddhism too. There was this man down from the most hollow person from the religion, and this is all about letting go all of your desires. The person said, woman, sleep with me and enlightenment.
Oh, if you sleep with me, you'll be enlightened. Yep. Oh yeah, they're rampant because spirituality is something that not everybody, because we're allowed to believe in whatever, but I think when we're at our lowest, that's like the place we go. We're at our lowest, so we go to the highest realm. And so I think a lot of spiritual teachers or no. Let me rephrase that. A lot of con artists and a lot of narcissists will lean into those roles and pretend to be the enlightened one because they know that people are crawling in on their knees looking
And
for help.
Keith used that too. He had this persona, this almost, and this seems to be a thing with narcissists too. At the end of the day, their end goal, and I believe this, like looking into this, and maybe it's not as simple because we'll never know what really goes on into these guys' minds, but it feels like if you were to boil it down to its most simplistic answer, it's a feeling of wanting to be a god over people. It's a god complex because a lot of narcissists on some kind of level want that really to be,
Worshipped.
revered. Almost like they want this awe when people meet them, and it could be for several things in their own life that they never got, but it translates to that kind of thing.
No one hugged him. And the thing is, like, he demanded that they throw him a birthday party and thank him for being born.
Yeah, that was fucking nuts.
What the fuck is that?
Like, they would have these birthday parties where they literally thank this man. I'm going to have my next birthday party like that. It'll be like, hey, everybody, Zod was born.
And you better come up with a good speech of thanking me of how I was born and how me being born benefited you.
Just FYI, my birthday is December 17th. So anybody, heads up now, my birthday stream, if you want to just give a ton of thanks to the man, the myth, the legend's day of birth. I mean, I was pretty close to Jesus, just saying. Me and the big guy
rolling through the Holy Land.
I could do the same thing. I could be like, did you know I was born close to Christ? Coincidence?
I think not.
Yes, I know. 6 weeks away. I'm not going to give my age. I will say I'm happily turning 22.
Oh, nice. I turn 21 all the time.
Yep. I understand.
I've been 21 for 20 something years.
Yeah. So I mean, it plays into a lot of things. So again, so we covered that. What's your conclusion about this, and what advice can you give to anyone who might listen, and are seeking this kind of comfort? What would be your recommendation for someone who are missing these things, but they don't get swindled into something like this? Like, what good advice can you give them to avoid
I
being
would,
put into this kind of
yeah, I
situation?
would start honestly, and it sounds so easy. I would start with just reading books. Like if you know what you're missing, or even if you don't know what you're missing, just pick up a book. Pick up a book that's calling to you. You say, hey, you know what? I really like that title or something. And that's where I would start. Because if we go in, unfortunately, when we're going in vulnerable, the problem is that we're vulnerable and we can't really see what's going on. Like it's easy for us to sit here and say, well, I wouldn't, I would never fall for that. But when you're at your lowest, you're not thinking straight. Like your faculties have actually shut down. So I would start by reading books and then start asking around. Like start asking around and say, okay, like where can I find someone that I think is going to help me? And then follow that person if you can, if they're a social person or if they're just like a doctor, that has, in a medical building or something. But ask around and ask more than the average bear would.
I like that. And, not to shamelessly plug someone, but if you look at my description, there just happens to be a link to someone's website here on the panel who might be able to offer
Thank you.
you some actual real constructive advice that won't manipulate you in
No,
any way, shape, or form.
no.
I went to your website and, I like the setup and everything.
Oh, thank you.
And even how you present everything, because I was doing a comparison because I knew I was going to have you on because I knew like how you talk and everything was very different to what I was seeing there. And you'd be a good way to show, hey, this is how it's supposed to be done versus a shell of what you're doing, twisted and manipulated.
Yeah.
You, even your wording and everything, it doesn't make you feel, I don't know how to explain it. You know what I mean, though? It's not very,
Thank you.
it doesn't make me feel like someone's trying to sell me something like that.
No, and that's the thing. And that's another thing. Ooh, that's actually really good because for me, you can book your 20-minute consultation. And if you don't like, there's no pressure. Like I will never call you back in 2 days and say, hey, like, are you coming back? Like I will never do that. You like everyone is on their own to make up their own decision. If you have one call with me and you don't want to do it again, that's cool. That is absolutely fine. Everyone is free to make their own decisions. And I think that is where like if you don't feel you're free to make your own decisions, and if you feel like you're being like forced or coerced into something, that would be a huge red flag.
It's hilarious. Yes, all of Hollywood is getting very cult like. I prove that every Friday night on my show. There's so much wacky shit, and it's like a giant echo chamber. And this is why I wanted to talk about this, because this borders on the cults, but this is also very true to the victims too.
Yeah.
To me, this is so worse because we're creating mass victims, and you never know who could have been a victim or who could be a victim now. There could be people spending hundreds of dollars on self-help seminars and things like that, and literally are getting taken for their money.
Yeah.
And it fucking pisses me off. It's slimy and disgusting. Like, look, I'm not a noob. I'm not blind to you have to make money. I mean, it's a sad fact.
It is a sad fact.
Help, to continue to help people, you do have to make money from what you do.
Yeah.
But there's a line between throwing out shit and giving people half answers and not being into it to hook them in versus I make money off of this, but I really do care about the work because a good psychiatrist, a good coach, anything like that, they care about what they do. It's not when you talk to them, you don't hear, I just made $1 million, got a Rolex and this new Lexus and a private jet. That shouldn't enter the conversation. It should be, I'm helping people and I feel good about what I do. And if I make some money along the way, that's good. But
well, I can put food on my table, right? That's all that matters.
Exactly. And that's the thing that's always struck me about you when talking to you. I never get those vibes, and I'm pretty decent at reading people. And TJ, billion-year contracts. If you read that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because the thing
other
is, and I
way.
was thinking about that the other day when we were, when we were talking about this, I said, wow, like $1 billion contract. But a lot of people would laugh it off. But the thing is, we don't know how many lifetimes we're coming back for. What if that contract is actually binding for every single life that we come back into? We don't know. That's the thing. We have no idea what happens after this. I'm not
Eh,
promising myself to anybody after this. I won't even promise
look.
anyone to
After I'm
marry. Like, never
gone,
mind. You can have my soul for 1 billion years. Fuck that.
look. After I'm gone, I love everyone here, but fuck everything.
Yeah.
Okay, leave me the fuck alone. I don't want to haunt this motherfucker. I don't want to be attached. Look, I don't want to be reincarnated as anything else. Just fucking let me go, all right, man? I did my duty. It's been tough enough in this motherfucker as it is. I'm out. Like, when I go, deuces, throw me a party. I've lived a great life.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm moderately high in the YouTube. I get to talk to a bunch of people. I got a great audience. I've got a wonderful daughter. I've got a great girlfriend. I can't ask for anything more. Maybe,
No.
if you want to throw me a couple bucks, that would be nice. But, I can't ask for nothing more in life. The things I can't take with me, but give me satisfaction, I have them.
Yeah.
I couldn't
I
ask
love
for
that.
yeah, that's how I feel. Like, I'm at a point in my life right now where I feel like I've achieved things I didn't think when I was 10 years old I was even going to make it to. I lived in New York. I hung around drug dealers and people who prostituted people and stuff. And I never thought that one good thing my dad had me do was to move out here because he said to me, and I'll never forget it. He said, here in New York, what are you going to do? The cost of living is high. You're not making anything of yourself. You're stuck. And for years, it never penetrated into me, that conversation, until now.
Mhm.
And I look back because people go, you lived in New York. Why'd you move? You were in the city, man. There was
Yeah.
like,
Sometimes
you
the city
were.
is good.
And the truth of the matter is, because I was in a sea of people, but I didn't feel like I was connected to anything. And that swings us back to what these people prey on. I had that feeling. I had that feeling of loneliness. Like, no matter how many friends I made, no matter how many people I talked to, I was connected but disconnected. I was isolated in a group of people. And that's why really I think I connect a lot with Allison Mack in that sense, and
Yeah.
what she said, and why it chilled me, because I've had that feeling.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. She was friends with like fucking Elijah Wood, Michael Rosenbaum, and Tom Welling. I mean, she was friends with all of these people, but
Yeah.
felt nothing and lonely.
Yeah.
And that's sad.
That is
And
sad.
it's being in it, being with my daughter, doing these streams, whether it's 30 or uh or 50 people or 10 or 20. I'm talking with other people. Like, people are interested in hearing what I have to say,
Mhm.
and I'm giving helpful advice to them, hopefully,
Yeah.
and I'm helping them out, and that's a great feeling. I've got that fulfillment. But the problem is, and the danger of this is, a lot of people don't have that. A lot of people are missing some of these areas in their life, or don't
Yeah.
feel fulfilled. You could have a wife, you could have money, you can have cars, you can have jets, and still feel like you don't have anything.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. And a lot of Hollywood finds that though. Like a lot of people who got all the things, like they've got the house, they got the dog, they got the car, they got the wife, they have everything, and they're like, why am I still not fulfilled? It's because it comes from the inside. It's nothing anything or anyone can fill for you. It's something you got to fill for yourself.
And I
Hence
wanted to
why
say,
we go to
hey, cousin
self-improvement.
Paulie. Sorry, I got the New York going. Cousin Paulie, what's up from South Philly? Uh, Thank you, cousin Paulie. But yeah, it's like uh, Planet Q's Queen said it best. You're feeling like you were screaming at the top of your lungs and no one heard
Yeah.
you. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly. It is that lonely feeling, like you're screaming out to people, but you got, you know, nothing, no engagement back. And what I found out later is that that wasn't a problem with the people I was interacting with, and it wasn't something I could give uh, to people. It was broken with me. I had
Mm,
to find the component internally that I was missing,
yeah.
and I feel like I haven't fixed it, but I've tweaked it. I've gotten to a comfortable place with it where those feelings will creep up, but I have to remind myself I'm a father. God willing, I'll be a husband. She doesn't know. Well, she does kind of now know, but
Well, she knows now.
yeah, she has a feeling. She knows at Christmas time something big's happening. I'm
Oh,
not gonna.
congratulations.
Yeah, but and I mean, it it took years to find those missing pieces uh, in my life. Lily Pollard said, I felt that way too until I found this community. This is the best days of the week talking to all of
That's so
you. And
sweet. I'm glad you
and
found it.
that's the thing that's helped me with creating this was I never when I first started this channel, I never thought I'd get to a place where I could build a community of people that even if I can't answer them directly, they're talking amongst each other and helping each
Yes.
other out.
Yes.
And what more could I ask for? I see so many streamers and so many influencers and people on YouTube that have these amazing audiences that they neglect because monetization and money and all that. And don't get me wrong, I'm having issues with mine right now. I'm currently working on because gotta love YouTube, but they're all about that, and they look at people as just they're logging in and they're over the internet. They don't see them as actual people.
Yeah.
And I don't care if I got 1,000 or if I got two, or if something happens and I lose everything. It's never been about that for me. It's been about connecting people with other people
That's
and
it.
making a connective community where we could lean on each other. uh,
Mhm.
and seeing this really pissed me off because this is a guy who, in theory, could have made a great community. He could have created something special,
Yeah.
and instead he used it to destroy people.
Yeah.
And that's what this is for me. I'm sorry, we kind of got like off track, but yeah. So the final thoughts is, seek out actual people, right? Do your research.
Yeah,
Anything
do a
else?
lot of research and go with your gut. And if you feel like you can't leave, because I feel like these people, they put that fear of into you that you feel like you can't leave. You're going to be punished if you leave. You are free to come and go. You are free to say, I'm not comfortable, this isn't working. Anytime you feel that you can't do those things, um it's not good for you. And unless that is your main issue, is that you can't speak up, like that's your limiting block right there, is that you just can't speak up. Then definitely do your homework and ask someone else that you really really trust, what do you think of this person? if
Yeah,
if you if you don't have the thing within you that has the ability to speak up and
and
do the and say no, because saying no for a lot of people is really really hard. And
oh
I get
yeah,
it, I was
that's
there.
like for me, it's never been a thing, but with my girl, and that's how we complement each other very well. She's uncomfortable in crowds and things like that, and sometimes she has a hard time telling people like no, unless it's like certain times, then she'll go off on them. But for the most part, and that's where I come in because she has tact where I don't. I'll be
Right.
like, no, get the fuck out of here. And then she'll be that other side where she'll be like, you could have been a little bit more sensitive about that. And that's what these dynamics should be, whether it's your coach, your therapist, spiritual advisor, whatever the fuck.
Whatever
It
it
should
is.
it should be, there should be a line, and there should be positive feedback towards you. And if there's negative things, it should be not presented as a fault of yours, but how you can fix it.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
that's the big thing, right? It was a lot of victim blaming under the
Hmm.
guise you're not victim blaming, and it shouldn't be that way. Christy Reynolds says there is a lot of communities among big community supporting each other, and yeah, we're all left each other up. You all seem to look out for each other and support other streams. It's lovely. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank
Lily
you.
Potter
Yeah.
says that she's been in chats where people only get recognized with money, and here it's not. Yeah, exactly. Later, Generation Productions, love you. Thanks for stopping by. Great, great guy. Love GP. TJ said, my channel is just to make people smile. If one person smiles, I've done my job. Exactly.
I love it. I love it.
That's what
it.
that's what it should be about. So
That's
in
it.
closing, my final thoughts is be careful.
Yeah.
And it's hard to detect these people. That's their whole brand.
Yeah.
But you have instincts. Everybody who tells me they don't, you do. On
You
some
do.
level, you have had feelings. Okay. You don't know what it is,
Mhm.
but whether the hairs stand up in the back of your neck, whether in your gut,
Yeah.
like deep down, you get a feeling like telling you this isn't right. And don't ignore that feeling. No matter if it's a self-help guru's seminar or if it's a therapist you go to see on a recommendation, if it doesn't feel right for you, don't let them sweet talk you and swindle you into thinking it's you. Okay. Yeah. Or that you're the one who has the issue. That should not be their goal. Their goal should be in helping you out and helping you recognize the insecurities without berating and attacking you for them. If you're being attacked for your flaws, it's not a good thing. There's a difference between pulling those out and recognizing what your flaw is so you can work on it versus being attacked for having the flaw, because we're humans and none of us are fucking perfect. If that was the case, psychology and coaching and all of these things wouldn't exist.
Right.
If people were perfect, there wouldn't be a need, there wouldn't be a market for it. So don't feel bad and don't make people make you feel bad for your insecurity or whatever brings you down. Your goal going to these people is to recognize that and have constructive criticism to improving that. If they're not on the level of improving and it's sweeping it aside and throwing money at it, that's not helpful. That's not helping you. That is using you for something that they gain and you get absolutely nothing. You get the illusion of change. And that could be a powerful thing, but it's just an illusion.
It is.
You will still feel the same afterwards. And that's the repetitive loop, because they count on that so that you come back. And if you have to come back because you didn't get something the first time, 90% of the time, it's probably not the person for you.
Right.
You should take tangible things.
The only things that we should be repeating are the affirmations we pick for ourselves. We never want to have someone else say, this is your mantra. We can say, you can try this mantra if you want. Go ahead, but pick your own. I highly never let anyone else tell you, because as I said, repetition is the mother of all skill. We tell ourselves something long enough, we are going to believe it. 100%, we're going to believe it.
It is really dangerous when you think about it. Super chat from Mega Jetty 1 said, gotta start heading to work. Take care, everyone. Thank you, Mega Jetty 1, for being here. Don't worry, we're wrapping this up. Chrissy says, yeah, when you're down, the last thing you need is to be felt attacked. Exactly. Yeah. But the streams I go to, I've often felt like that. I often haven't felt like that at all. None of you are like that. We don't need toxic. You can go to Twitter for that. Yeah,
exactly. Twitter's got all the toxic it needs.
Oh my God. I can't even tell you the amount of arguments. And I saw myself falling into the trap. But the type of personality I am, I'm like, this is a fucking idiot. I got,
I got to take care of this guy.
Yeah, the Twitter is the worst example of a breeding ground that. And this is what I'm talking about with companies endorsing it, right? That's another perfect example of toxicity and everything corporates want you to believe, but they endorse. You have celebrities and fucking Disney basing decisions company-wise on what fucking Twitter says. Just think about that. The idiots of Twitter, they are basing business decisions on because so many people are there and numbers and statistics, right?
But how many of them are bots? Like, are they real people? Not
eh,
all of them.
no, or it's people spamming the same
Yeah,
thing through bots.
exactly.
So it's not a good metric. And that's just
No.
like when you meet someone, look at the context and content of what they're saying before you make your decision. Really
Yeah.
read into the words. What are they telling you? It's easy for you to fall into this when you're at your lowest point. And I'd almost say too, when you're feeling that low, take time to do something like this when you're in an objective headspace, because they look for that. These grifters, these shisty people look for vulnerable people
Mm-hmm.
and people they can easily exploit and manipulate.
Yep.
So when you're doing this, don't go into it with a headspace that you can't make critical decision making type, that headspace where maybe you're tired or something like that. Be refreshed, be ready to go, make it like a day thing where you dedicate your time and go, okay, I'm really going to put my head to this, but don't go at a really low point,
Yeah.
right,
We
where you're
make
not
horrible
clearly
decisions
thinking.
when we're low. I learned
Oh
my
yeah.
lesson.
Yeah, like when
Yeah.
if you have a death in the family and stuff, there's that temptation to go out right away, but let things process and sit, and then go and find somebody to help you through that. Because if you go that very day or when the news is fresh, when my uncle died that day, when I went on, I was a complete wreck.
Mm-hmm.
And the next couple of days I took time off of the internet because I knew I couldn't do a stream without like feeling
Yeah.
sad. And I needed to take a break, step back, and then come back to it objective. And I would implore you, objectivity is important. If you feel you need help or you want to reach out to anybody, or like I said, in the description, Les's
Mm-hmm.
website is in there. You can go and check
Thank
that
you.
out. But you know, really do your research on the person, get a feel for them,
Mm-hmm.
and then make your decision.
Yeah.
Don't I hate to say it, but it's almost like getting a car or buying a house, right? They always tell you, don't go out and get the first thing.
Yep.
Don't go out and buy the first car. Shop around and look, because these are people at the end of the day that are paid to help you. So it's a service.
Yeah.
And in some sense, and I'm not trying to downplay it, but it is really, you've got to make an informed decision.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just, and that's the mistake a lot of these women made who got into this. They were referred, they were in a really bad spot, they were highly vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't make the best decision. And unfortunately, they got way more than they bargained for and had terrible things done to them. And it's not
Mm-hmm.
their fault.
Mm-mm.
It's
Nope.
people like this. And this is why I created this series. These people need to be called out and held accountable. And more people need to talk about it. Just think, this happened during Harvey Weinstein. It'll always boggle my mind. You had
Yeah.
this or Weinstein. Personally, this should have taken
It
priority.
should have. Yeah.
These were multiple women, right? And Weinstein was too, but that a lot of that is in the past. So
Yeah. I don't know how you would say which one's worse, but he was building an army for something. Harvey was getting his rocks off and he was abusing his power.
yeah.
I like, they're both equally as bad, and the celebrity got
That's
the
what I
hits.
kept on thinking. Like, don't get me wrong, Harvey Weinstein was a terrible guy, but at the end of the
Monster, yeah.
day, Hollywood let this shit go on for years. So this actually should have been tried years ago.
Yeah.
They just needed to sacrifice somebody and throw people in at the altar of progress. Okay, this wasn't out of the fucking kindness of their heart. This case with Nxivm could have been Waco. That's I truly
Yeah.
believe it. It could have been
Yeah. We don't
Jonestown.
know what he was planning.
Yeah, to this day, even the people entrenched in this, right down to the prosecution, have no fucking clues. They have theories,
Mhm.
but have no fucking clues where this was going.
Yeah.
And that's the scariest.
It is. Zod, I'm so sorry. I do have to go. I just noticed the time. I'm late.
Oh, all right.
I'm so sorry, but thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
And everybody go check out Les's channel. It's a great channel. She covers a lot of stuff with the Amber Heard. You got anything coming up before you take off or anything?
No, there's really nothing going on with Depp at this moment. So just podcast. So Stevie J. Raw and I are doing a podcast, Descent into the Wormhole. And so podcast, and it's got a YouTube channel. So we're doing that. And if you're up for spirituality and everything positivity and manifestation, the Sweet Spot of the Soul, I do that too. I'm a busy girl.
Yeah, so everybody go check that out. Check out the channel, and also a shout out to Stevie J. Raw, who was in the chat. Go check out his channel. He does a lot of great things. He's one of my favorite Australians. So he inspires me to want to go there, but I hear there's a lot of shit going down there, so I have to reconsider.
Never mind that. They got a lot of animals that will kill you at first sight. So
oh yeah, you know, they
there's
fought
that
wars
too
against dingoes and stuff.
Yeah, there's a
or what was the war against the what was that bird thing? There was a literal war against birds, the Munich or whatever.
I have no idea.
Yeah, but it was a bird thing that they literally fought a war against birds, only in Australia. But thank you for coming on, and thank you for donating your time. I had no clue I was going to go this long. But
it was a good conversation. I lost track of time, completely lost track of time. So
yeah, so did I.
It was so good. Thank you so much, and thank you to the chat for just being you, for being amazing. Thank you, and I just hope everyone has a great night.
Yep, have a good.
Bye, guys.
So in closing, I just wanted to say thank you everybody for watching. I really appreciate you being here. Next week, I will be talking about Scientology. And for that, I was going to have on everybody's favorite Mad Squirrel. We're going to, I'm doing a lot of research and stuff into that now. Yes, Epstein. Oh God, Epstein. That guy had a whole island. But yeah, I'm going to dive into the Scientology, another group heavily protected by a lot of things that are supposed to protect people and hiding under a lot of different laws, claiming tax write-offs for being a church and an organized religion. And we're going to dive into all of that because that's a big rabbit hole. After that, I'm going to be doing some stuff on the psych profession. And I'm going to talk about Keely about that, maybe getting her on, and Alma. And I want to talk about people who want to help versus people who use their gifts, or they use the gifts for intuition or whatever else, even if it's a kind of supernatural thing. They use it to grift people and ruin people's lives. And my running theme for this is going to be these things that should be helping people that are being misused to hurt people. And this ties in closely with abuse because it creates mass victims, real victims. People lose their homes. People lose their mental being. People lose themselves. And most people won't talk about this because they get nervous when you start to bring up these big people in this. But I think it should be talked about because every day more people fall into this trap, and they should have the skills and the awareness to be able to sidestep these, especially if you're in a vulnerable place. The running theme is all of these groups take advantage of people who are already at their lowest points. They're supposed to be helping people, and instead they take them and they break them further. And it's wrong, and it's shameful. And it's the reason why we have the Amber Heards of the world who are also being protected by powerful people so they don't face justice. It's disgusting. It's sickening. And more people who have bigger platforms need to step out and say something about it, because this is creating tons of future victims and even abusers, because males are just as subjective to being manipulated as females are. So you create male abusers, which will create more victims, and you create victims who are subservient to the abuser. It's a terrible system, and it's got to stop. We can't glorify it. We can't let them hide behind the illusion of being this credible entity or being a religious organization, or they chose to pay this. Those are all flimsy excuses. At the end of the day, no matter what you do, whether it's reading things psychically, or whether it's giving coaching, or whether it's being a fitness guru, you have a responsibility to the people you are providing the service for. And if you want to break it down to fucking business, people then are paying for a product. And if you are stringing them along and not giving them what the product is advertised as, then you are ripping people off. That's the basic fundamentals of it. Is you're providing a service, and then you're not giving people what they paid for. If you look at it from a business perspective, and if you look at it from a human perspective, you are violating and manipulating and destroying people. And more people need to say stuff about this. More people need to bring this up, because it's why there's so many fucked up people right now that can't turn to anybody, because when there isn't government funded programs, or when things, human services get cut, people will turn to these other people for answers, and they will be used, violated, manipulated, and taken advantage of on every fundamental level. And it's sad. It's wrong. And people with platforms, I looked into this. There is a surprising lack of people willing to talk about this. We all want to focus on like the Alec Baldwins and all of this, and that's fun stuff to talk about for me and my group. But there's also this other thing to talk about, this thing that is being funded to create victims and abusers and sending them out into the world. They're people that you could say hi to every day and have no fucking idea. And in a casual conversation, they could be like, hey, I'm a part of this group. They're doing this for me. And the next thing you fucking know, you're doing some crazy stuff and you're seeing all of these things. And the biggest thing for me that stood out about this documentary that kept on getting highlighted. I followed a couple of people who escaped Scientology. Some things that happened were horrendous. I agree. Something is going on with YouTube by so many being hit by demonetization. Yeah, because a lot of them, when they start to get into these things, it's a lot of what, because it's on a corporate level, they're making money from. So they don't want people to talk about this stuff. They call it inflammatory or whatever. And it's why I had to be careful with some of the horrendous things that this group did. I couldn't talk about here because YouTube will flag it. Why is abuse something that YouTube flags as a dangerous word when it should be talked about? It's looked as something bad and horrendous, and it is, but it's put in a box to where no one wants to unpack it and talk about it and help people. Instead, they want to act like it doesn't exist and ignore you guys and ignore people who've gone through this because it's bad for the bottom line, right? You don't want to admit a Hollywood star did this or that. Then we don't get money for it. What the fuck? So you're basically saying to me, it's okay to package this up and sell this and forget what the content is. Forget what's in the box. Just buy the box. That's what they're selling you, an empty box and saying this box is the greatest thing in the world. And when you open it up and you unpack it, it's shit. And that baffles my mind. And yes, Lily Potter, the document is called Seduced by the Light. It's on Amazon. Go check it out. Warning, if you go and watch this, It's going to be very hard to watch. And I would recommend that you almost do, there's 4 parts. I would recommend you do a part a day. Don't do what I did. I watched the full thing in like a day. And I won't lie, there's a lot of heavy subject matter. They warn you. There's numbers. If you've gone through this, they give you like the number for it, but it's done very tastefully. None of the really graphic stuff is shown through actual reenactment, like a human reenactment. It's all animated, which I thought was a nice touch. I thought everything done about this documentary was respectful to the people who were involved. And the key people that I wanted to highlight before I went that should be credited for their bravery was Kelly, Deborah, Naomi, Tabby, and Indiana Oxford. These women went through horrendous things. I think they're some of the bravest women I've heard about in quite some time. And it's a shame. I think they should get tons of credit. I think they should have fucking led a Me Too movement with the shit they went through. And I applaud each and every one of those women and the guts that they have to bring this to light to what was going on. They helped other women who could have went through this. And good for them. They deserve all the good things that could happen. Because it was hard for me to get through. And I'm sure it was hard for them to talk about, you know. Oh, thank you. I do have blue eyes. They say my eyes get bluer when I get sad, but this saddens me. It really does. I had questions of whether or not I was going to do this today, especially watching it. Look, I'm the kind of guy who does like late night talks, funny stuff, and I take a serious topic and try to add humor to it because I believe people should laugh, but we should also point out these things. And yes, Crummel, Indiana Oxford is a very brave woman. She is one of the bravest people I think I've seen in years. You know, she came from this royalty. She came from Hollywood, but she doesn't feel that way. She just feels like a genuine person who was manipulated, lied to, and had horrible shit done to her. And was brave enough to wake up every day, face what she went through, and she's quoted at the end of going, she wants to make sure this never happens again. She is currently learning culinary and is also a big proponent of going to talking to state legislation to recognize these groups and point them out. And bravo, good. I hope more women like her come forward and step up, and they don't brag about it. They don't say, oh, I'm so empowered because this happened to me. She tells what happens to her. She doesn't feel like she's, even to this day, done enough. She feels like, despite being a victim, she feels like she has something to atone for because of getting her friends involved. And I would argue it wasn't her fault, and that's what's stated in the documentary. But that's, you know, yes, Seduced by the Light. That is the name of it. Hold on. It is, I'll pull it up on my Amazon here. Thank goodness for technology. I have it on my like recently played list. And a girl's gonna look at it and be like, what the fuck are you watching? Hold on a second. Prime Video. And it is, why is it not? Oh, because it wouldn't be under my continued watching because I just finished watching it. No, it should. Here we go. It is called Seduced Inside the Nxivm Cult. It's a 4-part documentary. It's included with Star's subscription. Unfortunately, there is stuff on YouTube about it. So definitely check it out for more information. Like, there's a lot that I couldn't cover here. I don't have 4 or 5 hours. It would literally have to be a stream just for this topic where I took 4 or 5 hours to tell you guys every single minute detail, every brainwashing thing they did, all of the manipulation and lies. The money aspect would have to be a stream of its own because the money that they laundered was enormous. The people who were paid off. I mean, this was a very deeply entrenched group that nobody knew about. Yes, seduced inside the Nxivm cult. I typed it in to help me remember. Thank you. Yeah, definitely go check that out. Because it's a part of YouTube, but I think you got to pay for it. But this would be one thing that I would highly endorse, because this is I'm thinking probably between 1 to 3, somewhere in that area, because Squirrel, I'll be doing 4 hours wouldn't be enough time. You're right, Crummel. I'm thinking of doing these streams between that time so that my guests have enough time. But I'm gonna touch everything. And my final stream, my part 6, is going to touch on what this all has to do with abuse, and why I feel like it should be highlighted, and why it's so bad. Because I've said it several times, but it's creating abusers and victims. That's what these industries are doing. They are churning out victims and claiming that they're not, blaming them for being a victim. But that's what they're doing. They're manipulating, they're swindling people, they're making them victims, and then they're making them feel bad for being a victim. And holy fuck, does Amber entail a lot of this. Like, diving into this, I saw like key things in Amber's personality that is exactly like a cult leader. It's kind of creepy, actually. The manipulation, the twisting things around, the playing everybody. It's all what these people do. And this, to give you guys a perspective of why I'm so pissed off, this is a $1 billion industry. Self-help, coaching, and things like that is a $1 billion industry. Just think about that. So you have multiple people that are making tons of money and are either not qualified or using people for financial gain. And not all of them. I had on Les, and she is an example of someone who really wants to help people, right? There are people out there like that. That's why I'm going to have a guest on who's in that field, because it should be known, not everybody is like this. But like anything that can be marketed, you have your good and you have your bad. And right now, the evil and the worst of it is being marketed to people. And it needs to be controlled and regulated. And these people need to be held accountable at the end of the day. They need to take responsibility for what they're doing. And yes, Brett Callahan, when talking about sex cult, I'm going to touch everything. Phrasing. Phrasing. I'm not a saint. Wish I was, but no. Yeah, exactly. I got my affinity, so we'll start it tonight with my mom. Yeah. The big term now is life coach. Life coach, exactly. I'm doing good. Father Zod's doing pretty good. He's doing his own thing. His channel's doing really well, and congratulations to him. He's got a pretty decent channel. Different field than me. He talks more about mob stuff, but yeah. I wanted to bring this up because it's going to be hard to watch. And it's going to be hard. It was hard for me to watch. There was a lot of points where I cried in this. I haven't cried in a documentary in some time. And the way it's framed and the wording, I broke down like, oh my God, there are people who do this. They get endorsed, they get protected, they get funded. And it's sad. And Scientology is going to be a big one. But I remember telling my mom I was doing this, and she was like, you want to go after that? Like, I'm worried. And I'm like, look, I'm not that fucking interesting. And if they want to dig into me and try to find something, good fucking luck. I don't have anything worth going after. So you're more than fucking welcome. That just proves my point. These people don't want this shit out because they want to manipulate and use people and continue to get away with it. And this is so terrible. And that's just the thing. Most people won't talk about it because they're scared. But here's the secret. These people are losing traction. They're starting to lose their grip. People are starting to realize they're full of fucking shit. And if we have more voices pointing it out, we can save potential victims, and we could help save even people who could be manipulated into abusers. This is a two fronts. You're creating men who carry that mentality, and you're creating women who are being victimized. This is fucking terrible. And I'm waiting for Hollywood to make that movie. Where's this movie, Hollywood? Why aren't we exposing this? Why aren't we talking about these brave women? Where are you guys at? You're so about female empowerment. There are things right here in front of you. You could do some legitimate good. But no, we need a fucking remake. We need to remake another movie. We need to do another fucking Cinderella. That's empowering. Not a real life case with real life strong women who survived. Fuck that. We need Cinderella 20. Christy says, well, I have 8 kids. Maybe I have my own call. Yeah, kids. That's another story. I'm just a crazy mom that loves it when they cuddle up and fall asleep. Yeah, and that's the scary part, Christy, is the family aspect. This part 1 is on YouTube. Yes, I'm going to watch it after this. Thank you. I'm glad I got you guys interested. It's definitely worth a look. But yeah, this is the things that make me upset about Hollywood in general. They can sit here and make 6 parts of a franchise that was already done and good the way it is. And they can make biographies where they twist history to fit agenda, but you can't take a real life, really bad case that a lot of people don't know about with real life empowered strong women and turn that into a movie. If you want to be a real activist for feminism and empowering women, these are the people who should be highlighted. These are the brave women who got out of a bad situation and could inspire somebody. This story could make somebody recognize something that isn't right in a group they might be involved in. But no, fuck that. It's not marketable. We need the fucking Avengers 20. We need the Eternals. That's more important, right? God forbid we make anything of substance. It just fucking boggles my mind. Lily Potter said yes, Zod, and also help the abusers because they're all manipulated. And even if they do believe they're actually God, then they need to serve severe help. And I hope they get it. All the therapy and self-love. Yeah, that's a big thing. Let's hope they do. JD talks about this in his new movie Brand. Yeah, I commend JD. He really, unfortunately, the hard way, he saw exactly what this system is like, how fucking broken it is. And he's another one, he deserves the support he's getting because what happened to him wasn't right. And it really highlighted how broken fucking Hollywood is. Growing Up in Scientology does a very interesting channel. Yeah, I'll go check that out. Thank you. Because that's my next research right as soon as I get done. I'm going to give myself a day break. This has been really hard to talk about. I'm so scared for the future of my daughter will grow up, and there's so much evil in the world today. Look, Sherry, here's the thing, guys. I don't want to create a sense of, oh my God, the world's going to end. We're all fucked. No, that's not it. My issue is there's no one willing to bring awareness anymore. It's like a dirty thing. Look at schools with history, cutting out parts of history. I know this for a fact because my daughter brought home her history book, right? Instead of preparing our children, instead of throwing out the tools they need, they want to cover it up. They want to pretend that the world is fucking sunshine and rainbows and gun drops. And if you're a special snowflake, as Mad Squirrel would say, right? They want them to be in a bubble wrap. And here's the problem with that. Maybe it's good in theory, right? You want to protect people, but by protecting them, you are not giving them the tools to protect themselves, to be self-aware, to be able to look at someone and go, you're full of shit. They're not equipping kids with this. And this is a fucking problem. Because as parents, we can only do so much. There's other systems in place that are supposed to also help in their development process. But when these systems don't want to acknowledge the real world problems, we've got a serious problem. And then it falls on us to prepare our kids as best as we can. You know, some things they got to learn on their own. And I hate that fact. When I think about what my daughter is going to have to go through and stuff, I hate that fact. But at the end of the day, she is going to have to learn some lessons on her own. I can't protect her from everything. But what I can do is lay out things. And she's got to make that choice. And hopefully I've laid it out to the best of my ability. And that's what really inspired me to do this series, is I want to look at this a couple of years later, you know, and I plan on when she gets old enough to really show my daughter what I do. But I want to lay down enough of a foundation where she could go to my channel and, you know, she could show other people too what I do and be like, you know, my dad talks about this. And because of what my dad said, maybe I made a good choice. That's really my goal at the end of the day, is that I'm hoping I can prepare her with enough tools to, even if I'm not there, she can make the right decision. The sad part is we're all different and unique individuals and might not go down that way, but it's the point of equipping people with tools to combat these kinds of things. Because if you don't give people the knowledge or the tools, or even highlight there's a problem, you're not doing them a service either. You're letting them go into the lion's den without the proper means to defend themselves. I'm hoping that with so much negativity floating around Disney and Warner, etc., and these big companies will fall apart with the cover up and lies. Sadly, at the end of the day, money keeps them all insulated. I saw Epstein's document on Netflix, and that was hard to watch for me. Yeah, that was a really hard one. Sorry, guys. Oh, see you later, TJ. Thank you for coming. Thanks. You know, it is a harsh reality. It really is, but it's the truth. And it's disrespectful to those people in history. It's also harmful to children. Yes, it is. It is. Planet Q Queen said, I had a hard time watching Surviving R. Kelly, but I watched both seasons to understand what happened to our sisters and to know how to help them. Exactly. Yeah, and that's another one, Kreml. The right information is a weapon against evil. Exactly. At the end of the day, I'm hoping this series, no matter if I do a stream that's an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, I hope that when someone clicks on this, or if they come across this, it could impact them to see things and to realize that they might be in a situation that's compromising their well-being. And I think that the thing that pisses me off with some content creators is talking about this remedial shit. but these are the things that could help people that are going through something tremendous. I mean, these cults are everywhere, and you're talking about thousands of people in a year that are influenced or somehow impacted by what happened. That's thousands of people. There's billions of people in the world, but when you think about that geographically, you're talking about, when you think 3,900, that could almost be the size of a small portion of like the US, right? Like Oregon or one of those, like a state, right? When you think of state numbers versus people converted, it's kind of scary. You're talking about thousands. You're not talking about 100, 20, 30 people. You're talking about thousands of people then re-entering with this done to them, and possibly getting 1,000 more. Then you got a problem. You got a domino effect. Chris says, when kids get into something bad, we can be there for them to guide them, but we can't fix their problems exactly, unfortunately, or they won't learn as well. Just have the mindset of, oh, daddy will fix it. Yeah, and you see that with a lot of rich people, right? My dad does this, blah, 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 right? No, you can't have that. We got to be a guiding light. And that's when it really comes down to us as parents stepping in and taking that guiding role. We can't depend on shows and things to help guide our children. I mean, life gets hard. We get busy. But we still, when we became parents, we knew what that choice entailed, right? So we have a responsibility to be there as much as we can and to guide. That's the key. You know, I'm not saying run your kid's life, because at the end of the day, that doesn't work either. You got to guide. We got to be there as a way that if they need that hand, we can reach out and grab it. Otherwise, they may not offer it, and we may lose them. And that to me is more scary. That's what scared me about this documentary, you know, with this girl. Her mother almost lost her. Like, I can't fathom putting myself into that situation as a parent, what that was like. You have all this money and all this power, and at the end of the day, it doesn't amount to anything because your child is lost. There's nothing you could do. That's a terrible fucking feeling, and no parent should have to go through that. I don't care. I don't give a fuck who you are. That is the worst feeling I could think of somebody going through. Brett Cohen says it's also about kids learning resilience. Exactly. When you share trials and tribulations, they see you overcome them and learn. Hiding things to make the world seem all happy is just hiding the reality. Exactly. Cromell says the sign of times, now creating more cults every day. Yeah. And that's why I wanted to bring this up, because this is the ones I'm going to talk about are bigger, but there's smaller subsects every day. There's communities growing that are giving these people a false sense of belonging and being a part of something, and that's dangerous. That's a dangerous thing. And throughout history, we've proven it. Jonestown, the Church of Light, all of these different things. Manson family, fucking going back to the 70s, right? Peace, love, and happiness. And one of the greatest tragedies with the Manson family. Like, and all of this could be avoided because the thing they all have in common is these people had some kind of vulnerability that was exploited by somebody. And companies do this to us every day with the way that Disney, Warner Bros., they're master manipulators. Their whole job is to make you think you need something they sell. Just think about that. We need to get Disney Plus because The Mandalorian's on there. And don't get me wrong, I'll be watching that. But you see what I'm saying? I need to see what happens. They provide that service. On some level, even corporations employ tactics and manipulation tools to get you to think you need that. in reality, you don't need a Coke. You don't need Snickers. You don't fucking need the new Nikes. All right. You don't need this fucking cell phone. All right. We don't need these things. We want them. And there's a difference. And it's gotten to a point where it's getting ridiculous to where these companies and politicians and everybody else is exploiting it to a level where they're taking it to people who are supposed to be responsible for government and infrastructure and manipulating that to get more commerce. And don't get me wrong, I'm not blind. Some of this stuff needs to happen. It's just the way the world runs. It doesn't mean we need to create victims to get it. People have made money for millions of years without having to step over somebody. You choose to do that. That's a choice to hold somebody else down, to prop yourself up. You don't need to do it. You could just fucking work hard and get it. You don't need to step over somebody to make that profit, but people do it all the time. This was 10 years ago, but my 14-year-old came home with a brand new fishing rod costing a few bob. I was like, how did you get it? And he said, oh, I met a guy and he is teaching me. I mean, that's kind of crazy. I was like, what the fuck? I asked his name while he was at school. I went to the police, went to a police to reassure myself and to make sure my son was safe. He hated me, but yeah, there was history with the guy. They stepped in. See, yeah, that's the hard choice, though. That's our choice. Sometimes parents do need to step in to keep them safe. Exactly. And it's drawing those lines. That's up to us, unfortunately, right? If we depend on the Hollywood elites and all these companies to be the babysitters, they're just going to create consumers. And Disney said that. There's an article where Disney stated that it was the way it was worded, but it came down to basically they were creating consumers at a particular age to be loyal to the brand. And that's a scary thought because it hinges on getting the adults to co-sign to create the next consumers, right? It's a really slippery slope. They're creating markets and needs in a world of plenty. Exactly, right? You create a market of something and you get people to keep coming back. And the scary part is these organizations, but let's just be honest, these cults create a human need. They create an emotional need. And they profit because the sex stuff is just one part of it. They are profiting as well. People are income. Just think, people are the commodity. That is fucking crazy to me, right? I mean, Leslie even said earlier, just think about that. There was a pyramid scheme of people. Somebody actually thought, I could do this with paper clips and pens. Why can't we do it with people? That is fucking terrifying. That somebody is so twisted that they came up with a concept that people were marketable. And this isn't anything new. I grew up, there were pimps and prostitutes and things like that. I'm not saying I was around it all the time, but I knew of people who did these things. And I knew of people who profited off of this. And even when you look at trafficking in general, human trafficking is a big business, across several different countries that traffic women. But this guy tried to legitimize it and make it as if it was a pyramid, trying to almost legitimize, it's a weird sex trafficking / also, I don't even know what to call it. It's just so out of my realm of thought before I dug into this. Like, it's crazy. And people marketed it. Yeah, it's funny thing was that my son sold it. When the police asked for it in evidence, he said he sold it. They even laughed. Yeah, that's a crazy story. That my son saw a way to make quick buck. Yep. I mean, at least that situation, Christy, I'm glad that turned out like it did. But you know, you got a lot of cases where it doesn't. So you know, it's I hope that today I brought some knowledge and some thought to it. I'm not a guy who does the really philosophical stuff, but when I saw this, it struck a nerve with me, and I wanted to say something about it because it's terrifying, especially having a daughter and knowing that these people are out there. That we're not dealing with something that's small. This isn't just like if this was a group of 100 nut jobs, you know, I could let it go, but this is a highly organized, profiting business, legitimized by some of the most powerful people in Hollywood, Congress, government, uh, governors, and police officers, and things like that. There's so much deeply entrenched in this, and things like this don't need to expand; they need to die. And the only way they can die or be brought to light, which is the fear of most of these groups, is to talk about them. And if you don't talk about them, no one knows about them. There's a surprising amount of people who had no clue about Nxivm and what they were doing. And that's how they did it so well, until one person brought it all crashing down. But who knows what could have happened if like 3 more years happened of this? Who knows what kind of disaster we later be talking about and going, oh, I have no clue. How could this happen? So I'd like to thank everybody for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, all the YouTube things to fight the worst member of a cult, the YouTube algorithm. Pure evil. But yeah, definitely, share this around, share that documentary around. It's hard to watch, but I think it's informative and it's telling of the kind of horrors and tragedies that could happen to everyday innocent people. These people being abused and used weren't just Hollywood stars. They were normal, everyday people. There's literally a person named Deborah who was in the group who was in almost $50,000 worth of debt by the end of it, and took years for her to restore what she had. She was just a normal person who took the classes, $7,000 worth of classes. And these people fucking profited off of that. So it's not just Hollywood elites that get taken. The really big targets are the everyday people, right? You get a Hollywood star who will do something for a couple of years, and a couple of thousand to them is nothing. But hooking somebody who's in a desperate situation, that's their goal, because they can keep them there and create more. And it's violating and abusing and using average people. I know. I've been getting a random one dislike from somebody. I don't know. They watch, so thank you. But no. Please share this around. Let people know. Next Tuesday at 3, I'll have Man Squirrel on, and our next subject is the one that's kind of nerve-wracking, but I'll get into Scientology. I'll know if I make an impact, if I get it like a cease or desist order, or Tom Cruise is like, I'll be there. Dun, 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 dun. No, no, Tom Cruise is outside my door. I'll be like, guys, I can't talk about this. I'm sorry. Tom Cruise broke into my fucking house, and Ethan threatened me, and I just can't do that. But no, I'm going to be tackling that. I'm going to tackle psychics, and I'm going to tackle faith healers. And if you guys don't know, I'm a Christian, but I am going to tackle religion, because nothing is exempt. And in any field, I want to prove one thing. In any of these fields, they could be either extremely helpful or they could be used to lie and manipulate people. And believe me, I'm no stranger to what religion does too. But all of these things fit into a giant puzzle piece. And as hard as it is, people need to be aware of this, because it just doesn't affect Hollywood or people you don't know. This could be a neighbor. It could be a friend. Just say thousands of people every day are in cults. This is like thousands of people. And hopefully maybe one of those come across this and they realize that it's okay. It's okay to get help. Get out, seek professionals, find people who are legitimate, all right? Do research. And, also find stuff inside of you. You have to also look inside of you. At the end of the day, a professional can guide you to the answer, but you have to find the answer yourself. And it's not easy. It's hard, it's hard work. You could take years not discovering it, or you can find it in days. But there's always something that we need to work on, and it starts with you. Don't let anybody tell you, though, that you're not worth it because you have a trait that's bad, okay? Because you don't need that fucking person, all right? Everybody is beautiful for who they are. And if somebody's selling you that you're not beautiful unless you do this, then fuck them. You are beautiful the way you are. And if you feel you need to improve on something, then you need to seek out that answer. You can get guidance, but somebody shouldn't be trying to sell you the answer. They should be guiding you to help you find it on your own. And if they're trying to sell you answers, then they're fucking full of shit. They're full of shit, and they're scumbags. You should be obtaining these things on your own, because it's more impactful when you come to the realization and you go, oh shit, I did feel lonely. This is why. Okay, I get it now. If you're robbed of that, you're not getting help. And shame on the people promoting it. Shame. Sorry, that was my rant, but thank you everybody for watching, and I look forward to doing part 2. Hopefully this has helped some people. Hopefully it's illuminated some people, and I would like to leave off on a positive message of saying it. You guys are all beautiful, wonderful people. I respect every one of you, and if you do need help, go seek the reputable people. Go check out actual, real, legitimate helplines. Get resources from them to where you can get counseling and things like that. And also just remember, each and every one of you are beautiful and great people the way you are. If you weren't, nobody would want anything to do with you. But you are good the way you are. Yeah, maybe you got to tweak and change some things, okay? Because no one's perfect, but you're still you. And at the start of it, at the beginning of your life and everything else like that, you had friends and things because people recognize something good in you. And even if you don't, even if you had a rough childhood, all right, kids are assholes. We've all been assholes at times. All right. That isn't a knock on you. That could be something on them. There's so many complexities into this, but hating who you are doesn't achieve anything. And it creates and perpetuates a cycle of hate and violence and unpleasant shit. And we have enough of that shit in the world. So I would challenge everybody before I go, try to find somebody to give a good positive vibe to, like, hey, how are you? Or something like that, right? Just throw something positive into the world. I know I am. I'm probably going to do a tweet when I get off of here, but, let's throw out some positivity. There's so much negativity, so much bullshit. Let's try to start with throwing out a positive word and something of encouragement. Because if we get enough of those going, one person can make a difference. It's been proven through history, So go out there, throw out some positivity. And I'll see y'all later. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening. And remember the only rule here in the fandom zone: kneel before Zod. Only if you want to. All right. The darkness before we never quite saw we could